Hi, I know we got a full house. We got a couple things, just so you understand what's going to happen this evening. We're going to amend the agenda a little bit because we got some student recognitions that we want to get done before we do the hearing on the RIF and what have you. Kids don't need to be sitting here until 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They need to go home and do their homework. So with that said, once we get the meeting started here, that will happen. We're going to ask for everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, but after the pledge, I would like to let those of you who do not know, we lost a student over the weekend, a 14-year-old freshman at Bolingbrook High School, hung himself, and my heart and my prayers go out to the Mui family and the Cradler family. 14-year-old kids shouldn't do that. And I just want to say for all the kids that may watch this or all the kids that are here tonight, it ain't that bad. No matter how bad it is, find somebody that you know and trust and talk to them. There's no girl, no boy worth your life at 14 years old. Mr. Venegas, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we move item 7, student and staff recognition, to the front of the line.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any further? We also have some other recognitions. The KFC as well. We put them in there. Where are they at? Under 6.5 under gifts presented. Want to move those up as well into that same category? Is that okay? Legally?
Just amend the motion. Include that in the motion or amend it.
Please include that in the motion. Everybody? Yeah, they're here. That's the guys with the blue vests.
Okay.
So move.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so going down the agenda, we are going to go to, let's go to 6.25, since they're standing right there in the front. Knights of Columbus. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves and let us know what the program is. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Gary Hoffman. I'm with the Knights of Columbus. To my left, John Julitz is our worthy Grand Knight. Mark Hamden is our treasurer. And we have Andy Wasaki somewhere. He's trying to make his way in the building. He's our deputy Grand Knight. I stood before you a year ago with our annual Tootsie Roll Drive. And we set a goal of $5,000 to distribute to schools and other organizations that need the money. This money is targeted specifically for children with intellectual disabilities. I'm happy to say we hit that goal. We collected a little over $5,000, so we are going to distribute those checks tonight. The recipients tonight are the Hermiston School, R.C. Hill, and Romeoville High School. Our strategy this year to hit that goal was to expand on our collection points and also to get some support from the schools. And we accomplished both of those. The support from the schools was just overwhelming. And I want to thank you as being the chairman of this drive, and also I can speak on behalf of our council. It was a great effort. Friday and Saturday we had great weather. Sunday was a little rainy, but through all the bad weather, people stood out there and we collected a lot of money. So with that, thank you, and we were going to present the checks. Romeoville High School, $1,000. Thank you. R.C. Hill School, $1,000. Okay. I trust you pass those checks out. Okay, thank you. And the Hermanson Elementary School, $1,250.
Hey, who doesn't love Tootsie Rolls? Thank you, gentlemen.
There you go.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, let's do the Pillars of Valley View. I believe first this evening will be Mr. Curran, is that correct?
Principal.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hanson. Pillars?
It's actually Principal Fabi Williamson, Bolingbrook High School.
That's you, Ronnie.
That's Ronnie Bull then.
As he makes his way through the crowd.
He is making his way through the crowd.
Good evening. Distinguished board members, senior leadership, distinguished guests. Bolingbrook High School would like to recognize Ms. Corey Bassett as our Pillar of Valley View. Is Corey here? Just a little background information about Ms. Bassett. Corey Bassett began her path to teaching at Southern Illinois University, earning a degree in community health education and receiving her teaching certificate at Northern Illinois University in 2004. She was hired upon graduation at Bolingbrook High School as a health educator and has been ecstatic for the last 8 years to have the honor of teaching the students of Valley View. As a health educator, Corey measures the success in her classroom by her students' ability to analyze their decisions and how it impacts their goals for their future, their health and dreams. Aside from teaching, Corey is a core leader of an anger management group for boys. She serves as a check and connect coach to many students and as an academic mentor. While at Bolingbrook, Corey has been active in development of the health education curriculum and is currently the health PLT leader. Corey has also been involved in the accreditation process, Literacy for Learning program, professional development team, and the secondary intervention team. Corey is strongly committed to being a lifelong learner and promoting that behavior to her students. She has recently finished her master's degree in leadership administration from Benedictine University. Corey is committed to making Bolingbrook High School the best and is extremely honored to have the opportunity to work towards that every day. Thank you, Corey.
Next, we'll have Ms. Campbell and Martinez Middle School.
Good evening, board members, senior leadership, Valley View staff, and community members. It is an honor for the administration at A. Vito Martinez Middle School to acknowledge Ms. Anita Hilton as a pillar of Valley View. Ms. Hilton has been a counselor in Valley View for 5 years, the past 3 of which she has served at AVM. Ms. Hilton is not only an integral part of the Student Services Department, but the entire school as a whole. She serves on the secondary academic team, which identifies students who need more support in achieving their educational goals. As a member of this team, Ms. Hilton is the case manager or coach for many of the students on our list. She acts as a liaison to communicate interventions and also provides support to our teachers. Toward the beginning of the year, the team decided to implement a lunch and learn program. which provides a quiet place for students to study or retake assignments while eating their lunch. Ms. Hilton worked with the team members to organize this program and share it with the staff. Many of our students now take advantage of this opportunity on a daily basis. Moreover, Ms. Hilton works with the other members of the student support team to create staff and student awareness of bullying and teaches ways to prevent these types of behaviors in our building. Ms. Hilton also promotes college awareness throughout the school year. From her Explore testing discussions with students to her work on the NCAA March Madness college awareness activities, she helps spark college curiosity among all students. And although Ms. Hilton's work is typically done outside of the classroom, she participates in the Teachers as Readers program, Reading Rigor is Not a Four-Letter Word, to further her professional development. Ms. Hilton is one of the first staff members to offer a helping hand to support to help improve students' social, emotional, and academic well-being, and sincerely believes in the mission of our building and our school district. She truly is a pillar of Valley View, and we would like to thank her for her continued support in providing educational excellence to our students. Thank you, Ms. Hilton.
And last but not least, Jamie McGee, Ms. Hanson.
Good evening, members of the board, senior leadership, and the rest of the Valley View community. It is with great pleasure that Jamie McGee nominates second grade teacher Nicole Farrar, social worker Susan Rice, and special education paraprofessional Beth Prates to be our pillars of Valley View. One of our goals coming into the school year was to step outside of our comfort zones and to promote a positive climate and build a stronger sense of community. These three have worked tirelessly to achieve that goal. Ms. Farrar has been a leader in our building by planning building activities and events which promote positive culture and climate. She has spoken at staff meetings and sets an excellent example through the time and effort she puts into making sure her students are successful. Ms. Rice and Ms. Prates have collaborated to create a parent-faculty group which meets monthly and is a way for parents and staff to learn about how to help students with challenges and disabilities. Staff and parents have come away with tips of how to support all of our students, both at home and in the classroom. Nicole, Susan, and Beth have clearly gone above and beyond in demonstrating their dedication and their passion for our staff, our parents, and most of all, our students. It has been a pleasure and a privilege working with these pillars of Valley View.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda, the Will County Spelling Bee Champion. For those of you who do not know, this is Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant. She is your regional superintendent of schools. In case you never saw one, now you know what one looks like. How are you? I'm not sure if our spelling bee champ is here. Is she here? She is here somewhere back there? Here she comes, warming her way through the crowd. Yay! Getting a lot of airplay.
Yeah, this is
little
nice,
TV
huh?
time, little radio time, little.
Yeah, she's a star. This is our new star, and it's a pleasure to be here today. This is one of my favorite events that the regional office gets to sponsor each year, and it's been made a little more exciting with the help of ComEd. Kimberly gets to go and represent not only Valley View, but Will County in Washington, D.C. in May, and that's thanks to ComEd. If anyone has ever been to a spelling bee, or if anyone has come and seen, I know Larry's our #1 fan. He comes every year. It is an awesome event. I probably have more nerves going on at this event than these kids. To see these 45 students get up there individually, be thrown a word that most of us would not be able to spell. I'm going to be quite honest. And see them use their fingers, as she was good with little writing there, or tap their leg. It's an amazing, amazing evening. And this was our record evening. We had 21 rounds. So these kids are getting smarter and smarter. Our first year, I think we were out by like 13. The next year was like 15. So these kids are getting quicker, or not quicker, but smarter, but knowing what to have to do. They're taking this a lot more serious. I think it's the trip to Washington, D.C. But it is amazing. So I am here to recognize Kimberly Belser as our first place winner for the Will County Regional Spelling Bee. Congratulations.
Kimberly, what was the word that you won on?
I went on quibble.
Quibble?
Yeah. Can you spell it?
With a Q.
There you go. It's a good Scrabble word.
I watched the news when the vice president couldn't spell potato, so I know.
Yeah. And you know what? This is the what's so unique about this is it's a draw. So you could get a word that is, you're like, oh, come on. And then you can get some word that is like, what? So it is. So why don't you introduce your family, Kimberly?
Okay, well, this is my mom. Her name is Mrs. Kimberly Belser. This is my dad, Mr. John Belser, and this is my baby brother, John Belser III. These are my parents and my baby brother who have been very supportive throughout my spelling bee journey.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
A very gracious winner. She was very gracious. And, you know, she has represented Valley View already very well, because I had a phone call from the radio station that said, oh, my gosh, this young lady was so impressive. So congratulations and best of luck to you. All right, thank you. I'm going to throw you off there. Thank you.
Thank you. Represent us well in Washington.
Yes.
There's a great place to eat ribs there called the...
Is it 30 more seconds, because I wasn't expecting to come on a day of such so populated, and I understand why this is a difficult evening for you all. And I haven't prepared anything because I wasn't expecting this, but we are seeing this in school districts all throughout the county. We are seeing schools closed. We are seeing people ripped, and it's very trying. Me, myself, just 4 months ago, I was in a similar position where they tell you we can't afford you, and it's hard. It's hard, and I'm saying this as a plea because I've been doing this to a lot of school districts. It's going to be easy to point fingers right up here, and we can't be doing that. We are faced with a crisis right now. Just a month ago, the school districts have found out they're not going to get their fourth quarter payment. And these are things for state aid. These are things that the school districts do not prepare for. They create a budget with the expectation that they're going to get money, and then things like this happen, and it's frustrating, and it's going to be very easy to say, you're doing us wrong. And I'm sure, and I'm assuming, no one wants to do this evening. Like I said, I've been there. Nothing I'm going to say is going to make it easier, but I'll tell you right now, you're doing the best things as teacher, and you're supporting one another, because that's really what you need to do. Because we have a crisis throughout Illinois, and teachers and education in general is being attacked, and we need your support. So there's my little plea. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it. So now you've seen a regional superintendent of school. You know what they look like. They don't just hide in a dark room. She's out there all the time. I see her all the time. Brooks Middle School wrestling qualifiers. Here they come. Come on in, guys. Bring them all in. Come on in, gentlemen. Don't be so shy. There was at least this many people at the state tournament for sure.
Okay, good evening, members of the Board of Education, senior leadership, Dr. Mitchum, and members of the community. I'm Dr. Keith Wood, principal of Brooks Middle School. With me, the assistants, Mr. Pascavage and Mrs. Sylvester. It gives me great pleasure to bring forward a group of guys who exemplify what Brooks Middle School is all about. And to tell you a little bit more about them, a couple of their coaches are here, Mr. Aguilar and Mr. Pileggi.
Hi, thank you for all coming out to support our wrestlers. My name is Mike Aguilar. Again, this is Mr. Pileggi. And we had two other coaches that unfortunately couldn't make it out tonight. It's Dave Renfro and Bob Israelson. This group of boys, there's not enough words to talk about how much hard work and dedication that they actually put in. Their journey starts basically in November and goes all the way to March. They dedicate about 6 days a week to this sport. All day Saturdays, and we're with them, and it was really an honor to be able to coach them. A couple of them the past 3 years, and Raphael over there the past year. First, I would like to introduce Jack Hayhart. Jack Hayhart, I would say about 3 years ago, he was in my PE class, and he did 80 push-ups, and then automatically right there, I was like, you need to come out and try out for wrestling. And no wonder he's here now. He wrestled 119. His record was 30-8. He took third place at sectionals and did pretty well down at state, 1 and 2. So he got down and actually qualified for state, and that was really impressive. And again, with Jack, one of the hardest working individuals that I've ever seen. So Jack Hayhart. All right, next we have Josh Alexander, wrestled 135, and this year he was 40-2. An unbelievable wrestler. I really encourage him to wrestle in high school because I definitely believe that with the hard work that he puts in and with his talent, he could definitely go far with the sport. This year he was 40-2. Took first regionals, first sectionals, and guess what? He took first place at state, and that just goes to show how much hard work and dedication he put in, and I know if he does that with everything else in life, he's going to be very successful. Josh Alexander. All right, next we have Rafael Gonzalez. Unfortunately, he only came out for 1 year. It's his 8th grade year. I wish he would have came out for 3 years because it would have been, a great honor to have him on the team. Again, really hardworking, very determined to get, to work hard and go far with wrestling. He wrestled the 167 weight class. He was 15-5. Took third at sectionals, which is amazing because our sectional is very difficult. First-year wrestler, and again, made it down and qualified for state and went 1 and 2. He did really well down there, and we're very proud of him. And again, if he continues to work as hard as he has the last this year, I wish it would have been the last 3 years. He'll really go far with the sport, and it's been an honor again to coach him and all the boys over there at Brooks.
Humphrey Middle School wrestlers.
Good evening. I'd like to ask John O'Brien and Travell Timmons to come on up. you're here. Our two state qualifiers were John O'Brien and Travell Timmons. Travell ended up winning state at the 112-pound weight. He ended up the season 31-0 and represented Humphrey Women's State. So congratulations to Travell. I'll make sure they get these. Thank you.
Thank you. Luke Hansik. Oh, and Martinez, I'm sorry too. Team wrestling.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to stand before you this evening to recognize with our combined team of Lukanzik and Martinez Middle School. We had from Lukanzik placing 6th place in state, Gio DeCurie.
And from Martinez Middle School, we had 3 state qualifiers. We had Daniel Carreno, Stephen Moon, and Cameron Hughes. Congratulations. If any of the gentlemen are here, if they can step forward.
Thank you, ladies. Drill team qualifiers, Bolingbrook High School. Mr. Williams.
At this time, I would like to call Coach Tanish to Mr. Head Varsity Coach, Bolingbrook High School Palm.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Again, I'm Tanisha Mister, and I am the proud coach of the varsity Bolingbrook High School Raiderettes Pom-Pom team. I just want to say that these young ladies, I had a group of 12. 6 were actually the 2012 AAA Hip Hop State finalists, and I have 3 of the young ladies here. First of all, not only did these young ladies make it to state, they did it with a 3.5 GPA and higher. I take pleasure in being called Mama T versus Coach, and I would just like to say to these young ladies, thank you for a wonderful season. Congratulations, and I pray you continue to go forward with dance and everything you put your hearts and minds out to do. So I just want to introduce Cassie Nolan. My captain and a senior who will be going to Hampton University for pharmacy, Munsanji Muno. I have 3 young ladies who are not here, Lauren Solinsky and Kaylin Solinsky, and another senior who is Tonga Ndovi, and she will be going to the University of Illinois. And I saved my shrimp for last, who is Jessica Bartolome, because not only did she qualify for our hip hop team and went to state, she's also a state qualifier for her solo rendition of the lyrical performance. So again, congratulations to these ladies. And I would not do them justice without thanking their parents, who not only supported them, but supported myself, allowing me to mentor these young ladies, our school, our administration, our student bodies who were excellent in making sure they were there to support them. And I would like to thank the board for acknowledging my young ladies today. So thank you.
Thank you. Fabby, stay there. BHS.
This time, I would like to call Mrs. Carolyn Torp, our guidance counselor at BHS.
Mom, come on up. Where are you? Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here this evening. I'm going to give a little bit of a background information on this award that Sandeep, who is a junior at Bolingbrook High School, has won this year. The Bruce Fishkin Scholarship Fund conducts a nationwide search of outstanding juniors and seniors who challenge themselves to succeed and accomplish what most people never imagine. The award is not predicated upon need, but rather on ability, individuality, and potential. The fund seeks students who place a premium on higher education and on those who have, and I will quote here, always known that given a chance, they would achieve greatness. Selection is based primarily on each recipient's answers to 3 essay questions, but also on those who have earned a minimum of a 3.0 based on a 4-point average, and who plan on attending a 4-year university, earning a minimum of a bachelor's degree. This scholarship is a full ride for 4 years at a university of Sandeep's choice. It includes tuition, room and board, books, supplies, and all necessary equipment required for the course load. And I will comment here that Sandeep does plan on majoring in cardiac surgery. Students and their parents were flown to Las Vegas for a weekend. On a lighter note, Sandeep mentioned to me that Mom was very serious about him staying in the hotel room and getting ready for those interviews. And Sandeep said, I'd just as soon go see the lights of Las Vegas, so that's what they did. The interview obviously went rather well. As about 3 weeks ago, Sandeep did receive, I don't know if it was an email or a phone call, an email, notifying that he was one of 2 students who received this full ride scholarship. Okay. Sandeep, congratulations. On a personal note, I want to tell you that I've really gotten to know Sandeep this year, primarily as a junior. He exudes some of the most fantastic qualities I put forth in a student. One of those, respect for himself and for everyone he comes in contact with, and very rare quality, humility. I also want to congratulate his mother, who is here this evening, and Dad, who is traveling, unfortunately, because without them, Sandeep would not be the person he is today. Congratulations.
I asked him where he's going to go to school. He said, probably Northwestern. I think they'll probably take you. All right, now let's get back to what be kind of, I guess, the normal, as normal gets us, the agenda goes down. Who's got the, Mr. Venegas, why don't you read the board statement affirmation?
1 second, sir.
Once you get it up on the computer there. And then we will go into a public hearing to discuss the RIF. And by law, we have to go into a public hearing because of the number of teachers that are in that process or will be in that process for this year. Mr. Venegas.
Valley View School District. Mission. Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working towards all students learning through rigorous curricula and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery on high-quality assessments with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Thank you. Motion would be in order to go into public hearing for the purposes of discussing the RIF.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Ms. Campbell, second by Mr. Venegas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. We are in special public hearing. Pursuant to the Illinois Code 125-4-24-12, whenever the number of honorable dismissal notices based upon the economic necessity exceeds 5 notices and/or 150% of the average number of teachers honorably dismissed in the preceding 3 years, whichever is more, then the board shall also hold a public hearing on the question of dismissals. We've already have a motion to do that. We are now in the public hearing, and Ms. Hawks is going to give us a brief presentation. I guess it's brief, I don't know.
Yeah, it will be brief. Thank you, President Quigley. Good evening, everyone. The need for reduction in forces this evening is going to be based on estimated staffing needs for the upcoming school year, based on what we estimate as student enrollment. Also due to the uncertainty of state funding, we don't know exactly what we're going to be getting, but we do know that there are going to be some decreases. And also another reason is the low number of retirees this year. Typically our retiree number is higher this year. We're down to, I think, 7 certified retirees. That's very, very low, and I think it's one of the lowest in the last probably 8 years or so. And then the other reason that causes the reduction in force or honorable dismissal is that we're looking at some program modifications related to middle school intervention and driver's ed. The need to honorably dismiss or create a reduction in force up to 5 years is based on the necessity to ensure that positions are available for those teachers who have higher seniority and become involuntary transfers because their position is no longer available. So we need to ensure that, first of all, that they have a position that is open based on their certification. Even though we're releasing a large number of staff tonight, that's 401 certified staff members and 163 classified staff members. It is estimated that our severest projection would be that all but 30 to 40 of the certified staff members would be recalled, and all but 30 to 40 of the classified staff members would be recalled. I know that's still a large number, but based on collective bargaining language and school code, our process, or what our plan is that after the April 16th board meeting, we will look at our staffing numbers again. We will start placing involuntary transfers at that time. Once they have been placed, then we will start recalling those teachers that have been released or RIFed, honorably dismissed in seniority order, with 5th year first on down. And the only reason that if there's not a position for them that is within their certification, then they would stay on the recall list for up to a year. So that's kind of the basis for that. And then we're going to turn it over at this time to Assistant Superintendent Rachel Kinder. She's going to give us some information on the middle school intervention and the driver's ed program modifications.
Good evening, President Quigley, members of the board, Valley View community. Tonight I'm here to share some information with you regarding a follow-up to information that's been shared previously at board meetings regarding College and Career Readiness Task Force. Specifically what I'm referring to is the Middle School Academic Intervention Plan that, as Sharon mentioned, has some significant impacts on how things have been working at middle school. Just to give you a summary, I know not everyone was here for previous information that's been shared throughout the year. Basically where we stand, the objective is that we need to ensure that all students will be prepared with the prerequisite knowledge and that they need to be successful in high school and beyond. Our current analysis, 60% plus of students in 6th grade through 8th grade do not meet the benchmarks for college and career readiness. And this is based on MAP data as well as based on Explore data that our students take as 8th graders. The conclusion is, well, there's several. One of them is our core curriculum, our level of rigor. The instruction and assessment practices need to be strengthened. This is, of course, an ongoing process and cannot take place overnight, but it's in process. So we know that this needs to continue, but we also know that we need to do something in the interim, given the information that we have with the data in front of us. A targeted intervention solution is needed to support the core instruction and address areas of need of improvement. We know that as Ms. Bertino-Tarrant mentioned earlier this evening, we're at a crisis. We are at a very crisis point where we know the information that's in front of us. We know that we must attend to student need. We have to do something. We cannot just wait and continue to pass the students along. My goals this evening are to just briefly define college and career readiness. That's a term that's used quite often, and I think there's maybe some miscommunication about what that means. To just take a quick look at our mathematics and literacy data, this has been shared previously, that supports the need for intervention for students who are not on track. Identify what the proposed solution would look like for the middle school academic intervention plan, and describe the components of what this intervention plan is. College and career readiness refers to two different components. It's the knowledge and the skills. So when it comes down to knowledge, we know that students need to have basic knowledge as well as skill in the areas of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, but also in 21st century skills such as teamwork, critical thinking, and problem solving to be successful in all their future endeavors. So when they leave us, they have the choice, and they are prepared if they want to go to college, pursue training, or pursue a career. Based on our fall and winter map data for students in grades 6 through 8, this is just a snapshot to let you know where things stand. Universal we are defining as 50th percentile and above. However, we know that the college and career readiness cut scores are actually much higher, and our target is the 65th percentile. And as more information is coming out with the Common Core state standards, those benchmarks in certain grades in certain subject areas is actually much higher. We have about approximately 49% of our students in the green, which we would define as universal. As you look up the pyramid, the chart here, you will see that 11% of the students and 16% of the students, so 27% together, fall into Tier 2. That means they're somewhere within the 25th to 49th percentile. And then we have a significant number of students, 24% of students who are in the Tier 3, meaning they're in the 11th to 24th percentile based on their MAP data. We've administered the MAP assessment twice this year, once in the fall, once in the winter, and of course we will check this data in the spring, but this is consistent. And as assessment is changing in the state of Illinois, it's important to note that what we know as the ISAT is changing as well. The benchmarks for the ISAT are going to be realigned to be in alignment with college and career readiness and with the assessment that students take their junior year, the PSAE, the Prairie State Achievement Exam, and we know that those cut scores are going to be adjusted. So where we may have previously seen a school with meeting and exceeding in the 70% to 80% range, that's going to change dramatically. And that's not just for Valley View, that's for all schools in the state of Illinois. We've had an assessment system in the state of Illinois for many years that's not aligned. That's why you can have a middle school data set in front of you that appears that the students are being prepared, and then when they get to high school, that number is actually much lower when it's in alignment with the college and career readiness standards that the students explore as freshmen, and then they take the plan, and then they take the ACT as juniors. Our MAP data is somewhat similar. You'll see that we have approximately 40% this winter in the universal. In Tier 2 combined, we have about 29%, so that's students in the 25th to 49th percentile. And we also have a significant amount of students who are in the Tier 3 range, meaning the 24th percentile or lower. Based on our intervention plan, the program that we're going to be speaking about this evening, our goal with this is to provide that students the targeted support that we know that they need. One of our benchmark interim goals for progress is that 100% of students participating in the program will demonstrate growth, and 80% of students will meet or exceed typical growth. Now, typical growth is defined as only 50% of students are expected to actually meet typical growth. So these students have automatically a 30% chance or greater of meeting or exceeding that standard. When we set out to look for an intervention program, and I'd like to kind of, this is a misuse of terms. Intervention is something that you do for a smaller portion of your population. It's generally not something that you would put in place for a mass. That means that's something that you would do for the universal. While we are strengthening our universal core curriculum and instruction, we are putting this intervention in place. However, it's for a significant amount of students based on the need that we know is in front of us. So while we're calling it intervention, for the time being, it's really a universal solution, and we do expect that number to drop significantly as students get that extra support. There will be students who are kind of on the borderline who easily move into range of where they're supposed to be on track. And then there are other students who are so significantly behind that it's going to take several years, but we have to start now because we're losing precious time. And it will take them years to kind of continue to make these gradual gains above what is expected in a typical year to get back on track by the time they leave high school. When we set out to look for an intervention program, we looked for one that was research-based. We looked for one that was data-driven, prescriptive, or targeted individual student need in math and literacy, and there's not a lot of products out there that do that. We also looked for one that was aligned with Common Core state standards. Again, as many of you in the room are educators, you're aware that's an evolving field because this is new standards that have been set before us. We also looked for one that would utilize map data to drive instructional practices. We have an abundance of information, and if you are a classroom teacher, you know that when you look at your map data, you don't even know where to begin because there's so much information down to an individual level for the students. We looked at ability to assess student growth. We cannot put a program, a plan, an intervention, or a curriculum in place if we do not continually monitor, is it having an impact? Is it having the desired result that we said? Does it extend beyond normal classroom instruction? In 44 minutes, we could have the most phenomenal teacher in the world, and it's going to be very difficult to meet every student's need in the classroom, as well as target individual areas for growth and areas of individual strength. So we needed something to support the classroom teachers, as we've been hearing reinforced over and over. We need to look at students who are in multiple places. So we have students who are English language learners, we have students who are in need of remediation, and students who are in need of enhancement. For example, we have gifted students who come into the middle school, and they are met with the honors curriculum, but for many students, they need a greater challenge. This program has that capability. We also, given our current state, need to work at current staffing levels and work within the parameters of a contractual day. I would love to say that we could just add a period on the end of the school day and that we could add this amount of staff that we need to support those students. Unfortunately, I don't have that power, that magic power, and these are the realities that we're working with. We need to maximize our current resources and staffing, and this is something that we need to implement relatively quickly given the critical nature of where things stand, given the information that we have in front of us. We also need to be able to implement professional development so we can move forward with that immediate implementation. We reviewed many programs. This is just a snapshot of some of the programs that we reviewed. If you're familiar with any of the interventions that are out there, and you work in our school district, you're also familiar with the lack thereof. We know that elementary school, for example, has many interventions that are very prescriptive and targeted to certain areas. So for example, if a student has trouble with fluency, with reading, there's an intervention for that. There's multiple interventions for that. Middle school, the current way that we run things, we have an enhancement program, which means that one teacher serves a small group of students in math and or reading and attempts to provide those students some individual support and tutoring essentially in those two areas. And so this looks different at all of our middle schools, but given the constraints put on the teachers and that small amount of time to meet so many different students' need and not even actually having the information they need, the materials they need, we don't get the results that we could be getting from use of that time of providing additional support. One of the programs that really sticks out, and it's really the only program out there that meets all of our criteria, is called Compass Learning. It's by Compass Learning. It's called Odyssey. It meets all those criteria that I mentioned to you before. And when it comes down to use of the program, it's not just for students who are in need of support. It is for students who are on the highest end of the spectrum as well. It is for students who need a challenge, need enhancement to the curriculum. It can be used before and after school, at home, Parents, families, teachers have 24/7 access. So I'm going to go into the program a little bit to tell you how these criteria play out. Odyssey is individualized instruction based on MapRit scores. So this is a classroom, a typical classroom. You'll have students who are at multiple levels, at grade level, below grade level, and above grade level. Based on the information that comes from the map data, the information is automatically put in the program, and an individualized learning path is created for the student. And the student then is able to receive instruction, practice, and with ongoing assessment taking place that is responsive and adaptive to the student's needs. So if it needs to kind of recalibrate, so to speak, that a student is identified as another area where they're needing assistance, the program does that. To do this type of individualized planning, preparation, curricular development, it would take us an extremely long amount of time, an extreme number of staff members, and an extreme amount of resources to do this. So this online individualized program does this, and it's the only one that actually has partnered with NWEA to make direct use of this map data. So this is just a little graphic that shows you the information from the computerized map assessment goes in. It creates reports for the students. It comes up with a prescriptive plan for that student based on the range of where they're at, and it essentially creates this learning path for the students to work through. In our research and in visiting schools that have this implemented, and in reading and talking with references of other school districts who are using this, it is engaging and motivating. It is what our students are accustomed to. It is that type of interactive technology that they are used to. There's a very strong assessment component, which includes progress monitoring, so we can see, are we having growth? Are we seeing desired results? It includes summative and formative assessments as well. The curriculum instruction is based on current and confirmed research. There's a lot of information out there to support that. We know it's aligned with the Common Core state standards, so it's, although we're not required by the state or to officially fully implement those at this time, we're working towards that, and this is going to support us in making that. The critical mistakes framework is a really unique component, and that's just pretty much a complicated term to say it will identify students' mistakes, and based on that information, provide additional support or kind of reroute that student's learning path. So there may be some fundamental blocks that student is missing, or we may identify something that student has that we can grow and build upon. It encourages critical thinking, writing, and studying skills. The progress monitoring and reporting options are also very strong, and it operates under one management system. So there's literally no work that a classroom teacher or an intervention teacher would have to do. The information would already be there from the map data. The learning path would be created. And I mentioned before that it has home use for teachers, students, and parents, and this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, online access. We also have some additional benefits that are very strong. It can encompass grades K-12 for enhancement, accelerated learning, as I mentioned before. We would like to pilot this program with gifted learners for pull-out instruction to help enhance the honors curriculum. When students currently leave 5th grade, the challenge program, they come into honors. There is a need to provide enhancement and challenge for them as well. And it can go beyond mathematics and literacy. We could have middle school students taking AP courses. We could have middle school students taking high school level courses. There is a great range of possibilities with this program, including summer school, after-school programming, and it also would provide resources for teachers to individualize support for students in their classrooms. We're looking at an unlimited access licensing, which means that there wouldn't be a set number of students per site who could use the program. It would basically mean that all students at that building would be able to use that program. There's 2 options, and one is to pay a larger cost up front initially, or to spread that out over 3 years and then pay the ongoing maintenance and renewal, and there's 0% financing for 3 years. So that's a nice option too. Option 2 there is $60,000 a year for 3 years, and then $17,000 a year after that. So with any program or any piece of technology that you bring in, there's usually a larger upfront cost, that initial startup cost, and then the maintenance decreases significantly as students go on. With all of our students using this product, our cost would be approximately $15 per student to bring this program in. The hardware, there'd be a significant need for technology added to the buildings that is included in the technology budget, and we're in the process of determining the actual logistics in terms of furniture and data and power to those locations where the computers would be located. And professional development is also included. So any teacher that would be administering this intervention would be provided with training. The additional cost for that would be for guest teachers if it was held during the school day, or pay if it was held in the summer. So for those students who are not meeting benchmarks, instruction would take place during the class period in conjunction with careers. And this has been explained to the middle school careers teachers last week already, so they're somewhat familiar with this. At the careers sequence at middle school, there's art, music, family and consumer sciences, and applied tech instruction. Currently, students who are in enhancement at the middle school, they do not have careers at all. So they do not have careers in their schedule. They go to their enhancement period with their teacher. Depending on the level of need, students would receive careers curriculum instruction for 3 or 2 days a week, and then the individualized online instruction 2 or 3 days per week. It's really important to note that any intervention program that is research-based, you need to implement with fidelity. So if it says that the students need 60 minutes a week, you can't give them 30 minutes a week, cross your fingers and hope for the best. So this, based on student level of need, would allow us to provide them the appropriate amount of minutes per week while still allowing them exposure to the careers curriculum. So they would have a combination of careers curriculum and online instruction in mathematics and literacy. Career staff would be involved in a supervisory role of the online intervention for those students needing the 2 or 3 days per week, in addition to their teaching assignment. So on those 2 days per week, for example, your group of students would go to the computer lab, or the computers would already be in your room, and the students would work on their online program, and what the careers teacher would be responsible for would be monitoring progress and basically the reporting functions and making sure that there's time on task so that we can ensure that the intervention is being delivered. For those students not meeting benchmarks with the most significant need, and what I'm referring to here is about the 23% of students who are below the 20th percentile, essentially, they're at the lower end of the spectrum, they would receive intervention 5 days per week, and it would be given by enhancement teachers, math or language arts teachers, in place of careers instruction. They would be receiving the online targeted support instruction, in addition to some small group pullout, because they would be in there 5 days. Now, due to the decrease in careers sections by these students not being in careers at all at this time, staffing would have to be shifted as required. So this is a graphic just to help make sense of this, because it's somewhat complex. But for students in group A or B, so they're tier 2 in math or reading and tier 2 in math and reading, they would be receiving 2 or 3 days per week. Their teacher or the administrator of the intervention would be a careers teacher. They would still be receiving careers instruction, and they would still have all the normal courses that a middle schooler has currently in their schedule. Students who are tier 2 or tier 3 in math and reading, basically they're needing support in both areas and it's of a high need. They would be receiving 5 days per week. The teacher would be the math and language arts teacher, and they would have every subject in their schedule except for careers at this point. And it's important to note that there would be no overall reduction in staffing. The reduction in career sections would necessitate a shift in staffing to support math, reading, or language arts, to provide that most intense support for those students who definitely need it. All careers content areas would still be in place, and they'd be offered at all schools, at all middle schools in the district, and it would potentially be on a rotating basis. Band would also remain in place. Careers curriculum will be reviewed and strengthened while this is ongoing. As many of you are aware, we need to be implementing the Common Core state standards, and we need to be implementing mathematics and literacy instruction through the content areas. We know that the careers courses, that career and technical education in general, is a fantastic way to integrate mathematics and literacy in a real life application-based way. And our job is to provide a curriculum and provide the instructional supports that are necessary to help implement that. We would also like to look at this, developing a targeted support through the content areas to allow students who are in need of that most intense level of support to have access and exposure to the careers electives. And what we would do would be supplement their online instruction with some type of module or small group learning that would allow them exposure to the electives, but still have a very strong emphasis on mathematics and literacy support. But of course, that would take time to develop, although we definitely would like to put something like that in place. Next steps from this point, we would like to meet with the careers teachers to provide further information. After board discussion and consideration, action would be presented on April 16th. Upon board approval, we would work to finalize scheduling, number of sections, teacher assignments, room assignments, etc. We would finalize the plan for meeting technology needs. This is already well underway in case that we are able to move forward with this. Projections would be confirmed or adjusted with the spring map data. The middle school career staff would work together to make adjustments in curriculum instruction as needed, because currently we are on a 4-program rotating basis where students spend 9 weeks in each one of the careers areas. We would have parent and community information go out in addition to this first step here, and informational nights would be scheduled for parents to attend with their student. And training would be provided for those administering the intervention, and we would put processes in place to progress monitor how is the intervention working, how are students responding to the intervention, and where are we seeing student growth. So at this time, I open it up to the board for questions.
Yeah, I have a question. The statement up there said no overall reduction in force, but when Ms. Hawk mentioned, she mentioned something about maybe 30 people not being coming back. Where does that fit into this?
Well, a reason for the release having to go back as far as it does is that many staff members have higher seniority who are in the careers section. And because the careers area is being impacted with a programmatic change, those teachers would then be selecting new positions. So they would need to be able to choose from the open position list when recalls begin. When I said there's no overall reduction in staffing, meaning that there will be a need for additional mathematics and language arts or reading teachers to support the highest level, the most intense level of support. So there may be, say, for example, if there's a 1.0 reduction in the careers area, that 1.0 would be shifted to mathematics or reading intervention teacher. I don't know, Sharon, if you want to answer that better than I can.
No, I think you answered it. It's just that overall in a building, the FTE is going to stay the same, or the number of teachers.
Like those acronyms.
Full-time equivalent.
Full-time equivalent.
I know what it means, but you know,
I'm sorry.
Pet peeve. Explain it.
The full-time equivalent of teachers or the number of teachers will stay the same, but what they are teaching is going to be different. So we might not have a full-time music teacher. We may have a part-time music teacher or a part-time art teacher, but then you'd have the difference would be made up in language arts or math teachers.
Mm-hmm. No, you're still not making it clear enough for me to understand. When I hear that you said there's 30 and that statement says no overall, but now you're telling me that there's...
I'm sorry, I'll clarify, Ms. Campbell. Overall, based on this programmatic recommendation, there is no impact on staffing, no reduction in staffing. With the number that Sharon provided you with tonight, that's the whole global picture of staffing. So there may be a reduction in some other area unrelated to careers, but in terms of this program, this program will not necessitate a reduction in staffing. However, if approved, it would necessitate a shift in staffing.
That's clear. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. So if a child is in applied tech 5 days a week, and another child's only in applied tech for 3 days a week, and another one's only in for 2 days a week, how do they get a grade?
Good question. So right now, students are currently in each course for 9 weeks, and we're on a rotation. The curriculum is built for 9 weeks. If students are only in there 2 to 3 days per week, they would only be covering 50% of the curriculum. So what we would do is we'd look at extending careers courses to be semester-long courses, and then what that would require is that we make curricular adjustments for those students who are getting the 5 days a week careers. There are a significant amount of students, there'll be 50% of students who still are in careers 5 days a week. That curriculum will need to be adjusted. So because we are shifting things around, there are pieces of curriculum that we could move. There's curricular work going on now that would allow us to put additional modules or units in place, for example, to cover that extended time, whereas the students who are only receiving the 2 to 3 day a week instruction would be essentially covering what's there now, that 9-week curriculum in an 18-week span. But given that this is not a fluid intervention, it's not something that the students will go in and show immediate growth overnight. We're looking in terms of semester movement, which would help facilitate scheduling at buildings. It would also help facilitate teacher planning, preparation, and instruction, being that they didn't have to switch students and/or buildings and/or curriculum every 9 weeks. It would be a little bit more congruent with how the high school schedule works with electives in terms of them being semester long. So at every semester, they would receive a grade.
Okay. And then what about band?
What about band? Okay, band would still operate, and we're looking at our current band students right now to determine the impact that this would have on current band students. Now, it should also be noted that band is often seen as something that is progressive, meaning that parents want their students to get involved at 6th grade because it will continue all the way up to high school. So the committee is exploring options as to ways that this could still be done. Currently, students at the middle school level receive a significant amount of more minutes of physical education than they are required to by law. So for example, if a band student needed 30 minutes a week of intervention, they could take that time out of physical education, possibly before after school, or possibly at home, since we would be able to see what students, how their progress was progressing. So that piece is not fully finalized. However, there are options. If a student was in band, did need their intervention, it would depend on their level of severity of need. So if they were in significant need, we would have to look at how that would be administered.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment on there. I think I've got some other PE teachers out there too. We're talking about that an option would be for them not to be in PE.
For 30 minutes.
Yeah, for 30 minutes, but I still would admonish you to look a little deeper with the obesity and the lack of exercise that we're getting now as a nation. Is that the best thing we should look at?
I definitely agree with your comment, Ms. Campbell. It's definitely not the first go-to. However, we're looking at all options, given the very fact of the information that we have in front of us. It's very difficult to say that I have this information. I know these students, even if we started today, could barely catch up by the time they graduated high school to have a fighting chance, and I do nothing with that information. I would consider that to be, neglect.
Okay.
And I can't look at that way. So my role in leading the committee in this process is to explore all options, including after school. But unfortunately, we are working in parameters that are defined for us. I can't extend the school day. I cannot start earlier in the morning. We are very much working under some constraints that I have no ability to maneuver.
I do. Those are just my comments, and with all the studies out there, that your brain works better with exercise. So we got to look at that also. So
Right.
I know you'll look at options, but I did want that to be well documented.
Okay.
You can't extend the day, but we can and you can. And when we're in negotiations, that will be one of the things that we'll be discussing. It's that simple.
If that were in place, careers
Well,
would not be touched.
But that's something that we'll be discussing in contract negotiations.
Right.
It's just that simple. And that's a decision that we
if
have
I
to
may-
make as
if
a
I
board,
may
and you
add-
guys have to make as a union.
If I may add on what Assistant Superintendent Kinder has referenced, since we've come into these positions of superintendent and assistant superintendent, we have recognized that there are significant deficits in our curriculum across the board, K-12. This is not a teacher issue. We are not here to indicate that the teachers in this district are not doing an excellent job at educating our kids. However, we do have some curricular issues that need to be addressed. We have been malfeasant in addressing our curriculum K through 12. And we simply have to increase the rigor in our curriculum if our kids are going to get a fighting chance. Our request to deliver all-day kindergarten and to deliver a a much more significant K-1 curriculum is something that is at the foundation of what we're trying to do long-term to ensure that our kids, because we believe they can achieve at the same rates of surrounding districts.
Absolutely.
And I believe that, and I believe that our district believes that. This is not going to happen in a vacuum. While at the same time we are building our curriculum from the ground up, beginning with the kindergarten, at the kindergarten level, which is of significant importance, we also have kids that are caught in the gap. And these kids that are caught in the gap, it would be educational malfeasance to not attempt to address their needs in the interim. Otherwise, what we would do is let things remain at status quo, continue with the results that we're getting that are mediocre. Make no mistake about that, not as a result of what's going on in the classrooms, but as a result of the staff in this district not being provided with the tools and the curriculum to ensure that our kids can be met with success post-secondary life. So we're committed to providing the tools and the curriculum to this staff so that with your efforts in the classroom, the results will manifest themselves in the success of our students. And in the interim, we need to find ways in which to catch these kids in our safety net who are significantly behind and attempt to meet them where they're at and get them where they need to be by the time they graduate from college. Because I believe, and I think most believe, that if given the opportunity, they should have the option of being able to decide their future, and that the education system is not a precursor to them not being able to make those decisions. So these are very difficult decisions that we are making. But for myself, every time I go home and look in the mirror, I ask myself, did I do what I perceive to be in the best interest of the students in this district, which is what I think you hired me to do. There will always be those who don't agree, and there will be those who do agree. But fundamentally, we have to do what serves the best interest of these kids, and we have to make difficult decisions as a result. And these are some of the decisions that we are currently contemplating to ensure that we catch those in the middle in our safety net, while at the same time building a foundation for our kindergartners and first graders, so that eventually we'll get to a point where we can start to remove these interventions. We can start to significantly shift our resources back to a much more well-rounded curriculum. But if our kids are not prepared by being literate, based on what the expectation is, and understanding their math facts based on what the expectation is, I dare say we'll be cheating our future.
Thank you. Vicki, I'm sure you guys have some comments, maybe, perhaps?
I was waiting for you to finish both of the programs.
Well, I believe we are done. Are you?
I have driver's ed.
Oh, I'm sorry, driver's ed.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, then the next information report, I'd like to stress that it is an information report. It is designed to present information that is being reviewed for consideration of programming changes and/or reductions. I would also like to note that by no stretch of the imagination is anyone saying that driver's ed does not provide a valuable and life-saving service to not only our students, but their families and our community as well. So at no point am I suggesting that driver education is not valuable or worthwhile, and at no point is anyone suggesting that there is not a need for driver education. I think we would all agree that we want safe drivers on the road and that we want our students to be safe. That is of critical importance. What I am doing tonight is providing you with information about what our current programming looks like in Valley View School District in comparison with other programs in all of the surrounding schools around us, what the state requires us to do, and how this program compares to other programming in Valley View in terms of use of resources such as funding and staffing. We've really hit on the academic need previously, but just to refresh your memory, our current reality is that approximately 70% of our middle school students are not meeting or exceeding standard, and approximately 60% of our high school students are not meeting or exceeding the standard. And this is based on college and career readiness standards for math and reading per MAP, Measures of Academic Progress, as well as our Explore, Plan, and PSAE data. Our current reality has been mentioned several times before. We're working with limited resources. We know that we don't have the luxury of just adding staffing. We know that our current financial outlook is very bleak in terms of reductions in general state aid, legislation regarding the shifting of responsibility for pension. And we know that we're working within the parameters that are outlined in your collective bargaining agreement, such as the length of the school day. So that's just to establish that. Given this information, we know that we need to review current programming, staffing, and use of resources, and this is across the board. This is not just one particular program or one particular area, but it is really our obligation to the community and to the staff to make sure that we are being most effective in utilizing our resources to the fullest extent possible to ensure that our students have the best chance at being successful. We also need to avoid cuts in core academic areas that directly impact student achievement. So while sometimes that may not be able to be avoided, and if things continue to worsen, we may even be having to be forced to look in those areas despite our wish to avoid those areas, but that is the reality. Given the limited resources that we have, it is necessary that we look at possibilities for reallocating some of these resources to support academic priorities and address student need. I mentioned one example, I went into detail on one example previously about the middle school intervention program, but savings from current programming would allow us to implement that middle school intervention program. It would also allow us to bring an assessment component to the high school level, which is sorely lacking. We don't know what intervention students at high school have because the only data that we have to base this off of is students' grades, attendance, and behavior data. We are not able to provide a targeted intervention for students at the high school level, which many are in need of. We are not able to monitor their progress because we do not have an assessment tool. We can't implement RTI as it's meant, response to intervention, as it is meant to be implemented because we do not have a screener. We do not have a diagnostic tool to say what supports are students needing. So at the high school level, I don't know if a student is failing a course because they're lacking skills and they're lacking the ability, or there's some other social reason, or there's an attendance component. There's a variety of reasons. So in order for me to be able to dig into that and put the proper supports in place at the high school level, I need some real information to act on. Currently, the state requires that public high schools offer driver education. This includes both classroom instruction and behind the wheel, which I'll refer to as BTW, for a minimum of one period during the school day. School districts may offer portions of the course before or after school or weekends, which we found that nearly 80% of the schools around us do offer some type of instruction before or after school on the weekends. Students must have a minimum of 30 clock hours of classroom instruction and a minimum of 6 hours of behind-the-wheel instruction. Several years ago, the 6-hour requirement it used to be 3 hours. It was increased to 6 hours. And with that came the addition of staff into the program in order to provide that behind-the-wheel training that the students needed, because their requirement basically doubled. We know that it takes place in a dual control car on a public roadway, and it's taught by a certified driver education instructor. Currently, our program includes classroom instruction, which includes simulation, and given that our class periods are 50 minutes and students are taken out for behind the wheel and also for observation, meaning they watch another driver drive, and they have 6 hours of their own driving, they have approximately 63 hours of classroom instruction. They're in there for a full semester. Each class includes a classroom instructor and 2 behind-the-wheel instructors for every section of 24 students. The class sizes are capped because students are working on simulators and they're doing the simulated practice, and so those class sizes are smaller. While that one teacher is with the students in the classroom for classroom instruction, there are additional instructors, behind the wheel instructors, who are taking the students out on the roadways during the day to meet them with the required training and hours that they need behind the wheel. So essentially, at any given period, there is 3 classroom teachers for every group of 24 students. We have 10 cars total in operation, 6 at Bolingbrook High School and 4 at Romeoville High School. This is just a breakdown of our current enrollment and staffing. At Bolingbrook High School, for example, there is approximately 415 students served per semester, and at RHS there's between 200 and about 220 students served per semester. There's 13 full-time equivalencies, meaning there's 13 staff members, including the department chair at BHS, and 6 total staff members, including the department chair at Romeoville High School, for a total of 19 full-time equivalent. In comparison of resources and staffing, there is a great amount of resources put into the program in comparison to other academic areas. So I've provided one example for you here. In the driver's ed department at Romeoville High School, 6 teachers serve approximately 200 to 220 students per semester. So if you broke that down, that's a 37-to-1 ratio. I mentioned earlier that in any given class period, there's 3 teachers assigned to that one group of 24 students, essentially, because students get pulled out of the different classes for driving. But if you look at the total number of students served in one semester, there's 220, and they're served by 6 staff members. If we compare that to the English department, there's 16 general education teachers and 4 special education teachers, and every semester they serve 1,700 students. And sometimes it's actually more than that because students oftentimes take more than one English course. So if we look at that as just gen ed, that ratio is closer to 100 to 1 versus if we combine special ed and general education, it's more like 85 to 1. So essentially, it's a 66% difference, meaning the amount of staff allocated to serve students in driver's education, because that's a very limited population, and the amount of staff allocated to serve our core content areas, such as English or mathematics. A great amount of resources are put into the program in comparison to other academic areas. So expenses besides staffing are required that are not required in other academic programs. Things such as textbooks and supplies, those are standard, and that's required in any academic area. But things such as cars, maintenance, insurance, fuel, simulator maintenance, etc. Those expenses are additional expenses that are that come along with having a program in place. Many people believe that because the students pay a fee to be in the program and because we receive state reimbursement, that the program is a self-sustaining program. It is not a self-sustaining program. The annual cost to operate the program is $1.4 million. And the revenue that we receive from student fees is approximately $100,000 every year. And the reimbursement that we receive from the state is approximately $250,000 per year. So even if you add that together, that's $350,000. There's still over $1.3 million of expenditure going to this program. And current talks at the state level right now is that they're looking at the current budget line to reduce the funding that we receive for that reimbursement for driver's ed. And I'll mention that a little bit later on. I recognize that many of you cannot see this. However, this information is public. It's posted underneath Board of Education board docs if you want to see this information, how this is broken down. It shows in revenue, for example, what we take in for the program and then what that comes out to be in the end, how that's broken down in terms of car maintenance, supplies, insurance, tuition to other districts. If a student belongs to Valley View School District boundaries and they take driver's education in another district, we have to pay their tuition to do so. The state requires us to do that. And so it's not the $100 or $200 fee, it's whatever all of their expenses broken down, so the $1.4 million divided by how many ever students they have in their program. It usually works out to be a couple $1,000s per student if they submit that to us. If we broke down this $1.4 million in terms of number of students enrolled in the program, what it would cost to break even, the students would have to pay close to $1,000 per student to make this a self-sustaining program. Other considerations that we are aware of is that we need to purchase new vehicles, 4 vehicles of the fleet that need to be replaced for obvious reasons, for safety and to ensure that our students are safe on the road. The Illinois State Board of Education budget has a driver's ed line item at a decrease of nearly 28% for fiscal year 13. This equates to another $70,000 less in revenue. So as an example, instead of getting $270,000 from the state, that would be reduced significantly to under $200,000 in state reimbursement. There's also additional unfunded state mandates working their way through the approval process, and not that any one of those mandates are good or bad, but the reality is they would require a greater financial commitment from the district to meet those mandates. So when we say unfunded, that we get many unfunded mandates from the state, and basically you put it in place at your expense and you don't have an option to not put it in place. So those are just some considerations to keep in mind. People have often asked me, well, why don't we just raise the fee? If currently we have a waiver from the state that allows us to increase the driver's ed fee up to $300 per student, and we currently, our fee this school year is $150 per student, and when you see net up here, it says $81 per student net after waivers. Students who receive free lunch do receive a waiver per state code. And so when it comes all said and done, because we have a higher percentage of students who receive free lunch, there are a greater amount of waivers being issued to students who are not paying the fee. So we actually take in about $81 per student after the waivers. If we increased the fee to $200 or $250 or $300, you would see that it would bring in a small amount of money greater, but not enough to impact that overall cost of the program. Now, compared to area high schools, so when I say area high schools, I mean anyone in our vicinity, anyone within our athletic conferences, the Southwest Suburban Conference, the Prairie Conference, when we looked at high schools with comparable student population, we found they had 40 to 60% less staff members. So to give you an example, a school comparable to the size of Bolingbrook High School, which has just under 3,700 students, Lockport has over 3,700 students, and they have 2.5 full-time driver's ed teachers. A school comparable to the size of Romeoville High School, for example, basically all of the Plainfield campuses have between 2 and 3 full-time staff members. Both Wheaton campuses have more students than Romeoville High School. They have 2,300 students at Wheaton Warrenville and 2,173 at Wheaton North, and they have 3 and 2 driver's ed teachers respectively, compared with 6 at Romeoville and 13 at Bolingbrook. Area high schools, so staffing is considerably less. They still run programs comparable to ours. They just have fewer seats available or fewer students enrolled. Several area schools around us, Plainfield, for example, they offer the classroom instruction for 9 weeks versus 18. Lockport does the same. There are many different program models out there that are similar, but they're operating it differently in terms of students spreading out their behind-the-wheel hours. It's not all taking place during the school day. It is taking place sometimes during the school day partially, and then after school, or during the school day, and then on weekends. And in some schools, they do their driving in the summer. Joliet West, for example, they have 1 to 2 driver's ed teachers, and then their driving is done after school, and additional teachers drive those extra hours after school. So classroom instruction is offered as a standard, as we are required by the state to offer it. But schools in general have limited their number of sections taking place during the school day, and they will offer the majority of their behind the wheel at some other portion, or integrate it while the students are learning, and then spread out the rest of their hours. No specific reduction or change is being recommended. If we were to make the most severe reduction possible and still meet state requirements while reducing the program to the minimum allowable levels, the maximum savings would be $1.1 million, which would bring with that significant reductions in staffing, and that would require a shifting in the behind-the-wheel instruction to partially after school or during the summer. There'd also be a reduction in vehicles and related expenses. Obviously, there wouldn't be a need to have 10 cars on the road, insure 10 cars, provide maintenance for 10 cars. So that is a consideration as well. Now, there's a continuum of options between the current cost, meaning where we are right now with $1.4 million and 19 full-time staff members and 10 cars, all the way down to the bare minimum, so to speak, where there would be very limited sections of driver's ed at each building. And so that information is to be discussed and to be considered by the Board of Education. I'm simply providing the information so that these considerations can be looked at and decide what, if any, changes, modifications, or reductions are required at this time.
Any questions on driver's ed?
You didn't mention, I didn't hear the number of students you said, was it Joliet West, you said the how many students they actually have there?
The population at Joliet West is 2,800. Yeah, and they have one and a half full-time that teach during the day, and then after school there's approximately 5 teachers that drive those additional hours, but those are typically staff members from other areas. For example, it may be a physical education teacher who has a driver's ed endorsement, so they would drive some extra hours after school, and then that classroom instruction is limited.
So where's their salary coming from? Is they're still teachers for the day, so they just, that salary is the same, or what are we, how are they being paid?
Well, their salary, they get paid an hourly rate. So if we were to drive after school, which we do on a somewhat limited basis now, or for example, when we have summer school in the summer, we drive, the teachers receive their contractual rate of $34 an hour. So if we provided some driving after school, weekends, summer, whenever, they would be paid that. Those people would not be on the staffing role throughout the year unless they served in a different capacity. For example, if they were a PE teacher and they were going to drive after school or work during the summer as well, which many of them do now, but they're not carried on the staffing role with pay and benefits throughout the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
real
Jim.
quick. On the schools that have fewer seats, how do they determine who gets to take driver's ed?
Most schools have a lottery, or most schools have a first come, first served basis. So, for example, when we offer summer school driver education, we have one Saturday morning where the students come, they line up, they get a number, and they sign up. If they don't get into the course, they have, they're on a waiting list. There's requirements that the state requires that students have in terms of being 15 years old, having passed 8 courses in the previous 2 semesters, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first criteria. Some schools limit it to sophomores. They get all their sophomores through. Some schools will limit it to upperclassmen. So that is something that could be determined.
There are some programs that the state of Illinois doesn't allow for, but there are other states that allow for some of the classroom to be done online. There are anybody here ever get a ticket and you don't want to have it go on your record, and you go to the Northwestern University thing and you pay $100? They have something similar to that for high school aged people. Illinois hasn't approved that through Secretary of State's office or the General Assembly, but there are some programs that may be somewhere down the road that if they were to approve that and we would have that option, and they have to work out some kinks and details in it on how it would apply to students. But until we get there, there's not much we can do about it. We can talk about it all we want, but there's nothing you can do about it from the driver's ed perspective. But it would eliminate some of the classroom time required as long as they got the computer time done. But we're not there yet, so that's just something that it might be out there in a couple of years, but it's not there now. Any other questions on this? Vicki, you want to go ahead and...
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Kinder.
In the public hearing section. At this point, obviously, there's a public hearing. We're in a public hearing. Please state your name, where you're from. There's a sign-up sheet. Put your name, information, contact if you want to come up and talk. I would ask, just for the purposes of the fact that it's 9 o'clock and we have a lot of other business and you all are here, but your representatives are here. If you have something to add to something, great. If it's redundant, we understand that, but feel free to come up and speak at any point. But with that, I'll give you Vicki.
Okay.
Or Vicki will give us her.
As you know, I'm Vicki Sutherland. I'm the president of the Valley View Council. I had one question before I went into what I was going to give in my presentation. It was stated that there wouldn't be an overall reduction, but a change in your full-time teacher allocations. But the concern is, though, that if a teacher is not certified in the area, that the enhancement program requires, then that would mean that that person would have to be left on the release list or the recall list, correct?
There will be positions that are careers of the areas, the 4 areas, positions that are listed as careers. For example, there will be an art position that would not require an additional certification. With that shift, there will not be 5 full-time art positions at all the schools, or actually there's 5.5. So for that position, it would require a language arts or mathematics endorsement.
So that person who doesn't have that would not be recalled to a position if there's not one available and they're certified.
It depends on when they are called back. So the highest senior person who's called back first, they will have the option, if they have other endorsements, if their position's available, to take their position. If it's not, they are endorsing something else, they can take that position. When it gets down to the lowest senior person in that area, if they do not have another endorsement, then you are correct. There would not be a position for them unless there was a resignation or one of the other careers teachers chose to go into an area to utilize another endorsement.
Right. I just want to make that clear, because it almost sounded like everyone would have this position, but really it is in result of whether or not they have the right certification to do that shift over to have the same number of full-time teachers.
Right, and I'm sorry if that reference was misleading. When I said no overall reduction in FTE, I mean that there's not a net gain or loss in terms of overall positions. So although it may not be listed as an art position, there would be an additional full-time math position added to that school's staffing.
Right. Okay, basically, as a union, we recognize the fact that the district has the right by Illinois statute to implement reduction in force. We also recognize the financial state the Illinois government is currently in and the cutbacks in educational funding proposed by the state for all school districts. Also, we recognize the fact that we do have that significant population of middle school children who are in need of some type of intervention, and in the task that is presented by the board and the district to come up with a plan is also recognized. However, we are also quite sure about the fact is that the district is also is not in the same predicament as other school districts are in their financial needs. At this time, I'd like to make a point, though. Although we cannot negotiate the reduction in force with the district, we are able to have the right to negotiate the release, I'm right, over here, reduction to negotiate with the board the impact that this release is going to have on our members who are remaining currently in the educational system. Therefore, we are urging the board the board members to explore all options that are just not the ones that have been presented. So we want to meet with the board, be able to go over all the options that there might possibly be, and not just rely on the few options that have been presented to you today. It is within our rights to do that, so therefore we would like to make that request in order to be able to look at everything in case there's other things that we can do that will help to maintain our current staffing. We even suggest that you talk to our members. We even suggest that you talk to our members to find out what they think would work to benefit our children. Our teachers and parapros are the district's greatest resources. As you can see, many are here today. Our members have worked hard to make the necessary changes set forth by the new view. There have been obstacles with these changes that our members had to work through in order to educate the children of the Valley View School District. I am proud of what our members are able to accomplish each and every day, and also the professionalism that they exhibit. So again, I strongly urge you to look at all the other possible options before making a decision based on the one or two options presented to you tonight. Again, we really urge you to have some discussion with us that will allow us to be able to talk further about anything that is decided or any decisions that you made. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Vicki. For myself, and I'm not going to speak for any other board members, but laying people off is the last thing we want to do. We understand, I think everybody up here understands the value of what the teachers do. We understand the financial reality of what's going on, not only in our district. We know we're better than some districts financially, but we don't want to be as bad as some of those other districts are either. We also know the reality of what's going on with the state, and I'm always open to talking about figuring out ways to save a nickel and a dime. If you stick around later on, we're changing our insurance contract to save $10,000. $600 and some thousand dollar contract. We're changing it to save $10,000. Against, that doesn't make a lot of sense to some people, but it's $10,000 bucks. $10,000 is $10,000 bucks. It's $10,000 of salary, $10,000 of taxpayer money, and we're going to do, and we've been doing this since I've been up here, finding places here and there, $1 million here, $500,000, $300,000, wherever we can to save money to keep this district on the financial footing as we go forward. We've come up with some creative ideas to do some things over the past few years. We will continue to do that, and like I said, the last thing we want to do is reduce staff and what have you, unless it's a last resort or just for some reason makes sense. And not all these times does it make sense, but we do have to do what we have to do sometimes. So I appreciate y'all coming tonight. I know the rest of the board members do. I appreciate the efforts that you guys have put forth, and we're going to continue. And what I said earlier about we can make decisions about lengthening the time of day. You can agree to those things if that's what we come up with in a contractual negotiation. We understand that, and that can take care of some of these other issues that we saw with the presentations tonight. Whether we come to those agreements, I can't say, because we haven't gotten to that part of the negotiations. But maybe we will, and maybe we won't. But we have some options out there, and if you've got other options that you think might be practical and within the constraints of what we're trying to accomplish as a board and within the constraints of the contract, I'm more than willing to sit down with you. You know that. So.
Right, and that's basically what we want to do. We don't want to put this right at negotiations. We wanted to do this outside of that because we're looking at there may be different ways that we can come to some kind of decision or find other solutions that may not have such an impact on our members as this current one is suggesting. We have very good programs out there. I know that we're under a lot of changes, and people have really embraced the new view. They've worked hard. They've had to make changes based on that, but they get up every morning and they embrace those children. They work through the problems. There's been issues where we've had to make some changes. The teachers had to make some changes to adjust to things that are changing. But again, it goes back to the fact is that these are hardworking people. They are they're for the children, and that's their first priority. But there are other options that we possibly can look at that would not have the impact that it's having on our members as was presented today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Appreciate
Question,
it.
Thank you. Vicki.
Question.
Vicki, question.
Vicki?
Vicki, question. Come back. And they tell me I talk too loud and too
I am
much.
so sorry.
That's okay. I want to be clear in what I'm hearing you say is that we're voting on the reduction in force tonight. And what am I clearly hearing you say with these options that you want us to look at and talk to your people? Because if we're voting on that tonight, how do we get a chance to talk to you about what you're saying? So what are you asking me to do? I need to hear that
Because right now, as a school district, you have the right. So you may want to, or see a need right now to have that reduction in force. That you can go ahead and do. But then, there's also what we have the right to negotiate what the impact is on the remainder of our members. So what would that be? It would be something that we might be able to come together to say that not so many people would end up losing their jobs. There might be changes into the driver's ed where you go back and talk to the driver's ed people. There might be something that can be somewhere in the middle where they're more knowledgeable about the driver's ed and different programs that are out there. As far as the middle school intervention, it's, as I said before, it's quite obvious that there is a need for an intervention, but does it have to be where there's such a change in the staffing pattern? Do we have to reduce the number of sections because there won't be children to fill those sections because they're involved in our intervention program? When you look at it as a well-rounded child, that the children do need these other programs, that some children only come to school because those programs are in place. So we feel that as much as we need to pull up the math, the reading, we're all in agreement with that. But are there other ways that we can accomplish this without taking so much out of the programs that we have, and be able to still meet the needs of the children and still educate them and bring up the scores that we need to do so? So that's, what we would be able to negotiate and sit down and talk about. So as far as you making a decision to RIF or not, you can still do that, but we can still come back to the table and talk about how these changes are going to impact our remaining members and also the children.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board on this issue this evening during the public hearing?
Can I respond? I just wanted to acknowledge your comments, Vicki, and respond. I'll give you a moment. Just so everyone is aware, these definitely aren't easy decisions to make, and these are definitely not the first places that we looked. We're aware of the need for a well-rounded curriculum. We're aware of the need to have students exposed to other things. And we are most definitely open to hearing, as when we met at, I think, beginning of March, when we talked about these issues initially with the middle school intervention and the driver's education. We continue to be open to having that dialogue, as you know, that we are always available and willing to meet. And input was sought from a variety of other people. That none of these decisions or these possible recommendations were made in a vacuum, that there was input taken from many different sources in coming up with some of these recommendations. So I encourage you to, that we will meet with you to discuss.
Yes, we do have that appointment Friday too, so we can maybe do some discussion then. Okay? Anybody
Thank
else?
you. Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I know Pastor Hurd would like to, she's come up here, wants to say a few words, I'm sure. Please state your name and where you're from. We're in a public hearing.
My name is Suzanne Hurdle. I'm a parent in the Valley View School District. One kid that graduated and 2 that are currently in it. I'm looking at the website and being reminded of the vision and mission and the belief, which I know, Dr. Mitchum, you've been good about. And I agree with the belief that every student has the capacity to learn and to achieve his or her full potential is a foundation on which our efforts rest. I would hope that everybody in this room would agree with that. I want to say a couple things. My head is swirling because when I looked at the agenda for tonight's meeting, I could not believe how much you thought you were going to get done. And
We'll get it done, even if we have to sit here till 2 in the morning.
well, I think what's really frustrating to me is until about 10 minutes ago, I was out in the hallway. I think, it frustrates me that you didn't realize that you'd have the number of people you'd have. And I think it's wrong that you didn't put this in a place so that everybody could be hearing what you said. So,
We
Mrs.
were not
Kinder.
aware, just so you guys understand, we were not aware that you're going to have a big showing until Friday. Until Friday, we were not aware. And in order to hold the public meeting, we have to give, by state law, we have to give notification and posting at any other site where we would do that at. Because of the state law, we were not able to move the meeting. So unfortunately, that's the fact.
Okay,
Because
well
I
then-
made the comment today, why didn't we move this? And we can't by state law. Otherwise, we would have to push this part,
But there's
or
a-
the whole meeting back to another location, another day.
We have technology, and I think it would have been very easy to set up a TV out in the hallway so that everybody could hear what was being said.
That's fine.
And I'm not here to be contentious at all, I'm not, but I do find it disrespectful to the people that are out in the hallway that they
No-
can't
no
hear.
disrespect in
So,
whatsoever.
Mrs. Kinder, I'm going to apologize in advance because I couldn't hear one thing you said. So if I ask questions that you already answered, I'm asking your forgiveness because I couldn't hear one thing you said. I don't even know where to start, so here's what I got. First, I don't even know where to start on RIF because I'm so frustrated by that. I just was outside thinking to myself, we get so many parent link calls on so many things in this district. I find it fascinating that parents are not informed that over 500 staff are going to be having a reduction in force. I would like to know on the middle school, and I appreciate, thank you so much, Mrs. Kinder, for, is it Mrs. Kinder? Okay, thank you. I never know who's a doctor, who's not. Anyway, thank you for your email response to me. I really do appreciate it. I did look over what you sent, and I do have a few questions. Number one, I saw that the cost is $19 per student. I'm wondering how many students we're talking about. Where is that money coming from? Again, you may have answered this, but I couldn't hear it. Who will be teaching this? And it seems to me, I'm on the Universal Leadership team at Lukansic Middle School, and I was kind of thinking when I was reading what you sent, I feel like what we're doing is pointless. Like, we sit at that table every 2 weeks and we look at the map data and we've come up with all these different ideas of things that we're supposed to be doing. I can't even think what they're all called because there's so many. But you know, there's all these different things that we're doing, and I feel like that's sort of like window covering, like we're just doing that to make it look like we're doing something when really this was what we were shooting for all along. I think assessment's important. Please don't mishear me. Dr. Mitchum, you know how I feel. I've sat with you. I do think it's important, but I'm just concerned that we're going with two data points. And I guess my other question is, where's the data on this program? You know, where is the data that this works? I'd like to know, you know, that's important. Where is that data?
Okay, you can let me know if I missed any of your questions. The cost per student is calculated on the number of students who would be enrolled in the program. So that's approximately 50% of our middle school population. However, it's $15 per student if you calculate it by all of our middle school students. So that would mean that because all students have access and could make use of the program, we could use it in other ways. That cost would be slightly lower per student.
How many students do we have? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Current total enrollment is approximately like about 5,500.
In all of the middle schools?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, Brooks has the largest population, around 1,200. Lukansic has the smallest population, around 700.
Okay. And who will be teaching this?
For the students who need the smaller amount of minutes per week, the careers instructors would be supervising it. And for the students needing the most intense intervention 5 days a week, that would be enhancement teachers, basically teachers who have mathematics or language arts background.
Okay, so what do you mean by supervise?
In the fact that the teacher does not do the preparation and actually administer the instruction, but they guide the student through the instruction, make sure they're on task, do the reporting, basically ensure that the student is doing the minutes and making the progress that they should be making. So that's what their monitoring responsibility would be. They would not be responsible for preparing lessons or, you know, being a math expert and sitting down and reteaching a math thing that was taught in class or anything like that.
Okay, that concerns me. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that. I'm just going to say I'd have to think about that.
It concerns me as well, but the other option then would be to even more significantly impact staffing and with the careers teachers. So essentially there would only be a couple careers teachers per building, and the rest would be replaced with math or language arts.
I think you misunderstood my concern. My concern isn't who's teaching it. My concern is that it's not being taught, it's being supervised.
Well, to clarify, the 5-day-a-week sections would be being taught, and you're welcome to, go over some of the research that I provided to you with the links to look at some of the case studies and some of the sites that we visited and the people that we spoke to. The intervention is meant to be student-directed, meaning that, yes, there is a teacher involvement component that is very critical. I'm definitely not minimizing that. But one teacher couldn't provide that high level of individualized support to 28 students at once. You would be a superhuman person to be able to do that. And so given the magnitude of, or the high number of students that are in need of this support, this intervention is designed to be more student-led, meaning the student could work on it at home, and because it is adaptive and responsive, the computer essentially is the teacher working through that portion. Now, will they need some teacher support? Yes, but it is allows the student to be more individualized and have a little bit more self-directed.
Would they have to have internet access at home?
If they were going to use it at home, yes, but that we can't count on that, and we know that now our families have internet access at home, so that's why it would be available during the school day, and we also are exploring how we could make it available before after school or even during the summer.
Okay, yeah.
Or at the libraries, we have partnerships with the libraries to make it open to where students could go to the library to use it.
Okay, and I don't want to take too much time. Like I said, there's a million things running in my brain. My second thing, I think I heard you say this again. I was like behind Mr. Brown, so I couldn't totally hear, but I heard you say something about that there's no assessment tool in the high school, so you have no way of knowing, you know, if a kid is failing in class, why they're failing. Wouldn't you talk to the teacher to find that out?
Of course, and we do that.
Okay. It just seems like an obvious thing to me, and I would think having one kid in the high school now and 2 kids. And then I have so many questions, but anyway.
I'll clarify on that. I'm definitely not minimizing the input of teachers, but when it comes down to a student having a significant maybe deficit in that we didn't discover, and now they're in high school and they have a 3rd grade reading level, for us to diagnose what type of support that student needs, we can get as a one person with 150 students, I can know my students very well, and I can provide a lot of information about that student, about what's going on at home, about what's going on with their learning, about what's going on with all of those different facets. But again, they have 150 students, and that is a lot of students that they see on a daily basis. The teams that sit down and problem solve around students who are not achieving, they're looking at 2,000, 3,000, you know, they're looking at thousands of students. And so there has to be a better way, a more systematic way to get information and provide some support that is actually what that student needs, instead of just kind of guessing and going on what we know with our information from grades or the Explore test, for example.
Yeah, I just want to say 2 last things. I'll be done. One is, and Dr. Mitchum knows this, I'm not big on the assessments. He knows that. I have seen the map data at Lukanzik, so I know where we are. I know there's concerns. I have concerns as a parent. Yeah, I know all that. So I want you to know I see that, and I do, you know, I know that there are kids that need intervention. I get that. I think I just, I'm not sure I buy into this possible way of doing it, but that's what I want to say. The last thing I want to say, I can't even remember, I think it was last Thursday night. Yeah, last Thursday night. I went to Lukanzik Middle School. They had a man who came, he was an anti-bullying guy, phenomenal, Jay Banks. And one of the things that he talked about was how important parent involvement in schools, like that can be the critical link. And I know I came to a board meeting last fall and got, you know, kind of whatever by a board member, but anyway, I just want to read this. This is from the vision statement from the webpage. Our students will respond to higher expectations if our entire community believes that all students are capable of meeting high standards and accept nothing less from our students, parents, teachers, administrators, and the community at large. And I guess what I want to ask, and I don't know if there's an answer to this or not, but it sure seems like there's a missing element. I see a lot of focus on our teachers, but you know what? I'm tired of the excuses of parents not being involved. We need to hold them accountable too. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is David Burke. I'm from Brooks Middle School. Earlier we heard that one of the primary reasons for the 5th year cut was some language in the contract that would require it if the program cuts presented tonight were put into effect. And I would suggest to everyone that that language is something that we should really look at in the negotiation process for the future. But if you are serious about seeing other options and really discussing with us what else could be done, then you have to say no tonight to the 5-year RIF. Because if you make that cut tonight, it can't go back. But if you table it or do other bureaucratic movement, whatever it needs to be done, just wait until the full conversation can be had. Otherwise, we can't go back. Thank you.
If there's no other comments this evening, please step up, state your name, where you're from.
My name is Shirley, and I'm a parent with 2 children at
Shirley, what's your last
Romeoville-
name, please?
Brady. Shirley Brady.
Brady.
And I have 2 children at the Romeoville RC Health School. And I need to take a moment. I understand that in an economic crisis, you are faced with a difficult decision as to how to cope with a lack of funding from the state and the lack of money in the district in general. I think all of us as parents are also faced with a difficult decision as to whether or not we should continue to enroll our children in a school district that cannot provide for their needs versus homeschooling or moving. Also a very difficult decision. I found it was pretty shocking to see that 60% plus of the kids in middle school do not meet the college and career readiness. So I understand that there's a need to improve those children. And so one of my big questions is why are we not implementing more significant curriculum in K through 5? Why instead are some of these special needs programs being cut?
There are significant changes that either are starting or will take place with K-5 curriculum as well. If you're not familiar with the new bar, so to speak, that has been set with the Common Core state standards, when I refer to college and career readiness, that benchmark did not exist previously for elementary school. So our data at elementary looks very similar to what it does at middle school when you're looking at the new benchmark. Now that the old benchmark that was in place, our elementary schools were doing very well at meeting that benchmark. That had been what was established for them. That's how the students were measured, and that has all changed. So we are looking at that changed benchmark, which is what other school districts are also forced to look at as well. So this isn't just a Valley View issue, it's the fact that there's finally talk going on of what does it take to be successful once you leave high school, and then let's work backwards all the way down to our kindergarten. And there are significant curricular changes that are taking place with mathematics K-5, with elementary, that have been approved, and we'll be moving forward to implement those higher standards in terms of mathematics for our elementary students. And so it's not just a middle school thing, and we don't see this as just putting a Band-Aid on the issue. All of those things are taking places, but curricular changes take time. So this is one fix that will help us get through this hump, so to speak. Dr. Mitchum mentioned that there's a lot of students kind of caught in the middle who aren't going to have the full benefit of having the new curriculum in place all the way through. So we have to look at what can we do to provide for those students as well. So it is occurring at K-5. Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, then why are programs such as the Challenge program being cut?
Challenge
it is now significantly, it is now more significantly difficult for students to be accepted into that program than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And so the more difficult you make it for kids to be accepted into that program, the fewer and fewer students that are going to be enrolled in that program. At what point do you just say, we don't have enough kids for the program, there aren't enough kids that qualify for the program, we'll just get rid of it?
Well,
and that to me would create a vicious cycle if you don't have kids at the K through 5 level being challenged, being educated to the best of their abilities. What chance are they going to have when they get to middle school?
Okay, I'd just like to clarify so everyone understands, Challenge is not being cut. In fact, we're looking at how we could expand it to multiple schools and actually have a challenge program at each site so that students wouldn't be forced to leave their home school to be exposed to that. So we most definitely are not looking at cutting the challenge program. What we are looking at is the criteria for entrance into the challenge program. So there wasn't a clear definition of what does gifted mean. And if you ask multiple people, or if you even Google the term gifted, there's many different definitions out there, and what defines a student as being truly gifted. And so they're looking at that definition and looking at the criteria in which to place students to make sure students are appropriately placed. At the same time, they're looking at students, offering options in the curriculum and instruction to support students who may not fall in that criteria of gifted, but who do need advanced or accelerated instruction and who could benefit from having extended learning opportunities. So we most definitely are not looking to cut or minimize our numbers of challenge students. But when we look at our current challenge student population, there is a great range of students in that program in terms of ability. And so if we look at our MAP data, there are students at the 50th percentile, and then there's students at the 99th percentile in the current challenge program. That makes it very difficult for a teacher to implement a curriculum and provide appropriate instruction with such a wide range when gifted is intended to be for a specific set of students. We also want to look at having like an honors type of pullout where kids got that advanced or accelerated instruction even if they didn't meet the criteria.
But currently, there's nothing being put in place for the kids that are considered talented but not gifted. Because from what I understand and from research that I've done, children who are truly gifted are only approximately 1% of the entire population, which is why it seems to be good reason to have an extended profile of kids in that class so that you can have enough students to create a class.
Sure, we're not, yes, the true definition of gifted is approximately 2% of the population, in the world. We're not, I don't think that anyone's looking to restrict the criteria to be so exclusive. I think that they're just looking to have a set defined criteria so they know that they have a certain range of students. And to answer your question about is anything being provided for students who are advanced or accelerated, if you ask any elementary teacher in this room, they do things on a daily basis. They do things with guided reading. They do things with small groups. They do things with their center learning that do meet the students' needs in terms of giving them a greater challenge. There's a lot of differentiation going on in our elementary classrooms. If you visit our elementary classrooms, you will see that there's a whole lot of different things going on for different students depending on their need.
And then
I also would argue that our highest performing students are equal to the highest performing students anywhere in the country. The difference in Valley View versus other school districts is that we have a smaller percentage of those students that enroll in our buildings. But if our students who are met with our most rigorous curriculum, I would match those students with any students anywhere else in the country because we do have students as well that are going to Harvard, Yale, Northwestern, and all the top schools in the country. But because of our demographics, because of our socioeconomic status, because of those factors beyond our capacity as a system to control, we have a greater percentage of students that don't fall within that category. But for the students that do, I would challenge anyone to argue that our teachers and our curriculum at its highest level is not equal to everyone else's.
And then I guess my other question would be, again, moving toward 6th and 8th grade, why wait until 6th and 8th grade? What more can we do at the K through 5 level to not only challenge the kids that are testing at the higher levels, but to challenge all of the kids?
As Assistant Superintendent Kinder indicated, we are doing those things. We are increasing the level of rigor in our curriculum. We are looking at infusing considerable money into our curriculum delivery system, as well as the curriculum that we offer our kids. We are looking at putting all-day kindergarten in place. We are looking at revamping our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade curriculum. We are looking at providing technology in the classrooms at the K-5 level. I've said from the beginning that the foundation of what we're trying to do begins at the beginning. And so even looking at preschool kids, we're trying to develop ways in which to assure that our kids are at grade level at the conclusion of 3rd grade, because again, the literature and the research indicates that if they are we can determine with over 80-something% accuracy the kids who are going to meet or exceed on the ACT or the PSAE at the conclusion of 3rd grade. That almost renders 4th through 10th grade meaningless based on the data. I think we can impact that data if we affect our programs, affect our curriculum, affect our assessment systems, affect our curriculum delivery systems in a way that has been proven to work. Nothing that we're proposing is something that we pull out of thin air. Everything we do is based on literature and research and things that have been proven to work when implemented with integrity and fidelity. And one of the things that I found troublesome in this district is our belief system, because for years we have exposed our kids to a lack of rigor. I'll tell you, I grow weary of kids moving in as a result of financial hardship from some place like Hinsdale, for example, and 2 teachers and 2 parents coming to my office this year and indicating to me that what we're teaching our kids in 3rd grade is what they learned in Hinsdale at the second half of 1st grade or first half of 2nd grade. I don't want to hear those conversations. I grow weary when I have parents whose kids have graduated from our district who go to college and then feel lied to because they perceive that their kid was met with a quality education, only to find that when assessed at the college level, they have to take remedial courses that they have to pay for, and scholarships are pulled based on a GPA that doesn't indicate what the kid actually knows, and then the parent comes to my office livid at the fact that there's a perception that, and I would as well. And so those are the things we're trying to fix. And so, from behind the scenes, I get many people who are disgruntled with the way we're conducting business and the outcomes of our kids. Pastor Suzanne indicated that parents are the most critical factor. No one at this table disagrees with that. If in fact we had the input of the parents that some of the higher performing districts had, we would be equally as high performing. My question becomes to all of us is, absent that stuff, because we can only control what we can control. If there's a way in which I can definitively hold parents accountable like we can ourselves, believe me, I'd be the first one to do it. But absent that, the question becomes for all of us, given the parameters for which we have to work, do we have the capacity to impact learning for these kids? Despite that factor, because I can't control it, we have worked tirelessly to engage parents. I go out in the community 15, 20 times a year as a principal and as a superintendent, engaging parents, trying to get them to engage us in the learning, in learning, in teaching and learning for their
That's
children.
obvious by the size of the room that you chose, that you feel that there's very limited parent involvement.
Well, there's not enough parent involvement to the extent that it's going to impact our results. So then my question becomes, absent that, can we impact do we have the capacity within our organization to impact those results? If we do not, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then we should just look at our kids and say, this percentage has sufficient parent support, therefore they're going to be successful. This percentage does not, therefore they're not. And if that's the case, how can we consider ourselves difference makers? If it's already predetermined who's going to be successful and who's not based on factors beyond our capacity control, then why even waste a dime on kids that historically have not been successful because they don't have the supports outside the system? If we can't provide those supports, if we don't have the wherewithal, if we don't have the systems, if we don't have the integrity and the beliefs to do that, those kids will fail. And guess what? Those kids have been failing, not just in Valley View, but across this country. And I think that Valley View can be significantly different. And not just that, there are pockets of districts out there across the country who have debunked that notion and have got kids who are poor and minority and with no supports to go to college, 90% of them. And I know that we can do that in this district as well. And as a leadership team, that's what we're charged to do. We are not adversaries. We are in this together. We are not up here administration against teachers. Clearly that is not the case. There are difficult decisions that need to be made. We are open to anything, and if there is something out there that will afford us to save every single teacher and provide the necessary interventions for our kids that will produce tangible results, I would argue we would all leap on that. And so if we can work with the teachers union to provide that level of support without impacting staff, trust me, that's nothing up here that we want to do.
Well, with all these programs that you said you're looking at implementing in the school, I guess I'm still confused as to where the 60 to 80 staff positions are being cut.
First, it's not 60 to 80, number one.
There was
No.
30 to 40 that would not be hired back.
Certified and 30
From
to 40
30
classified, and that's the most severe cuts, if we go with the most severe.
So that's 60 to 80 total.
That's a possibility of it.
Of certified teachers, about half that amount. Teachers of support staff would be the other half. Correct.
Correct. So where are all these cuts coming from? Where are these cuts coming from? If there's all these new programs being implemented, why is it that we still need to eliminate 60 to 80 teachers and support staff?
The proposed cuts around programs. And so when you're looking at programs as opposed to individual teachers, if we are potentially eliminating programs, and that's how it's going to affect teachers. Because if you eliminate programs, that means that teachers in those programs are eliminated, and then they have to move into areas in which they're qualified based on their certification, which will then push people out. But what I want to point out is that we are trying to readjust our resources to the best of our ability to infuse supports in those critical areas that we're being measured on. Because whether we like it or not, when you flip over the district school report card and our school's school report cards, we are measured on to the degree our kids are literate and understand math. And that is what causes people to determine whether or not we are a failing or a passing district. And do I think that's a fair assumption to make about a district? Absolutely not. But it is the law, and that's what we have to focus on. If in fact, from a holistic standpoint, we're going to save the very way in which we conduct business. I just went to something in
Which programs
Chicago.
is it that are being cut then? Because the only thing mentioned tonight was driver's ed, which is currently only staffed with 19. So
No,
even if you eliminated
but
driver's
we
ed
also
altogether.
we also looked at the reduction in students. You know, our students, the enrollment number is going down as well, which
We have
impacts.
There's a projected decrease
Right.
in enrollment, so that's one factor. And then when looking at class sizes in all areas across the board, you know, that's how you arrive at a number.
Right. And when we're talking about class sizes, we're trying to stay away from the core content areas. We're trying to stay out of the math and science and social studies and English classrooms, because that's where our bread is buttered. And so we have and continue to not have the luxury, but have some of the lower class sizes of LUDA conferences, large unit district association, Ms. Campbell. We have, we are blessed with being able to have low class sizes, and everything we do is centered around trying to continue to support those low class sizes while increasing the integrity of our curriculum so that our kids are met with success by the time they leave our system.
Okay, and I just had one more quick question. It seems as though this intervention program, although something is definitely needed to help these students, it seems as though it doesn't fit into the current school day. Is there a reason, forgive me for my ignorance on this, but is there a reason why we can't tack an extra 15 minutes onto the beginning and the end of the day and keep that half an hour of PE?
Again, that is to be negotiated in our contract negotiations now.
Okay.
And we will, I'm sure both the union and senior leadership will work to serve what's the best interest of kids within the parameters that, you know, we're dealing with limited resources, and it's like, you know, you can't get blood from a turnip. And so we're looking at all phases of our organization to try to do what's best for kids and provide the time necessary for teachers to teach them.
Thank you. Hi, please state your name and where you're from.
Jennifer Murray, parent and R.C. Hill gifted teacher. My support of gifted is unwavering, and that's really not what I'm here to talk about, although I do want to point out that kids like Sandeep, who went through my classroom many years ago, those are the kids that are getting those four-year scholarships and the kids that are really going on. And I've had the last 2 or 3 valedictorians at, I think, Romeoville High School, the salutatorian at BHS. Those kids are going places, and I'd hate to see them stifled in any way. But my concern right now is, as a parent for my son, who is in the, and my daughter, in the AP and the honors courses at Romeoville High School. Currently, our grading scale is 93 to 100, I believe, is an A at the 92 to 100. I do this every day, is an A. My son has received a couple of 91s. I think one was in AP Physics, and he gets a B on his report card. We had a college fair at RC Hill this week, and I was talking to a representative at Benedictine, and I was asking about scholarships in the ACT, and she said to me that they're looking more now at GPA than they actually are at ACT scores. And my son is very upset because he feels like if he went to Naperville or Plainfield and he got a 91%, he has an A, which is weighted as a 5 in an AP course. He has a 4. This is something I think the board really could do, and it doesn't take a lot to adjust our scale. And I'm not asking to lower standards. I'm asking to make us competitive with the kids around us so that when my kid goes to school with his 91, he can stand up there with any other kid from Naperville or Plainfield with their 91 and be proud of his A. I'm not asking for any weakening of his rigor. I'm not asking that he be, now we're saying a 91's an A, we're lessening something. We're not. We're just putting him on an even playing field. And we need those scholarships, and we need kids coming out of the school district like Sandeep who are making good. We need that. That's going to bring us all up. So I would encourage you to look at that grading scale one more time and maybe think about those kids who they're competing for scholarships, and I think it's only fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, please state your name and where you're from.
Kyle Jakubik, Bolingbrook High School, driver's ed. I just had a couple questions as to what exactly is the plan for driver's ed the board is going to be voting on tonight or on April 16th as to, you laid out several options, but what options would they be voting on?
There's nothing being voted on tonight, only information was being presented. Where that goes with discussion amongst the board and what comes back for the recommendation, it could be any continuum of modifications in terms of reducing the number of staff, just keeping this program as is, reducing the number of staff, meaning that there's fewer seats, fewer sections of driver's ed, to shifting how behind the wheel is done. So there's just there's a continuum of options, but no option was recommended this evening. Just the information was being presented.
Kyle, also the board could vote to make no change to driver education.
Okay.
And if that's their will, then there will be no change.
All right, thank you. The other thing I would urge the board to read over information that was provided by Mike Godel. I think it's got some very interesting information on safety statistics, and it's got a lot of data that would definitely might influence your decision, because again, we are talking about one of the few courses, it's an ongoing joke at my house. My wife's an English teacher, so she says, you don't have a rough day. And I always respond, well, when was the last time an English paper tried to kill you? So take that into some consideration too, that this is truly a lifelong skill that these kids need. Number 3 is, if we're about the kids, we got to remember one thing, that the license is one of the most important things for kids, because it's a way for them to help out their families. And we are in economic times where, as a coach, a kid comes to me every day and says, I can't be there, I got to go home and work. It's, what am I going to say to the kid? No, you can't. And I think the importance of the license to get them out there, because we know kids are out there at midnight. I got a track kid who works midnight to 5 a.m. plastering with his dad. And he needs that license to get to and from. So I'd suggest that you look at that and just consider that before you make any decisions as to how it's not only going to impact us as a department, but as what we're going to do to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie Thomas. I'm a teacher in Valley View. I wanted to confirm something. You are voting on the RIF tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have just 2 quick concerns with it. With that mass amount of teachers, I've seen the RIFs in the past few years, and it was such a smaller number. With 400, 500 teachers being placed, I worry 2 things. Number 1, that if the process drags on for too long, that we're going to lose qualified colleagues of mine who, because of a fear of not having a job here, will be applying to other districts. And I would hate to see us lose quality teachers in that manner. My second concern is, again, if it takes a long time for these positions to be filled, we all know that summers are not really 3 months vacations for us, but planning for 3 months. If a teacher does not know what position they're going to be in until 2 weeks before school, they lose that valuable time to be working with their colleagues and to give those children the education that they deserve.
My name is Kelly Conway, represent BJ Ward. Comment. When you guys are looking for funding to save our jobs 5 years down the road, I know at the beginning of the school year, our administrators were given iPads and Blackberries, and I want to know where the funding came from for those. I bought my own iPad. I use it in my classroom. I use it, my kids use it. My other comment was, I don't know if it was answered, where is the money coming to pay for the Compass intervention program? I don't think that was answered. If we're in an economic crisis and losing jobs.
It would basically just come from a reallocation. So if there are changes to driver's ed, for example, we've worked.
I don't think I saw the numbers accurately.
There are many areas you've only seen a glimpse of what we're looking at in terms of cutting the budget. So everything from materials, supplies, things like that. There are a lot of areas that we can shift expenses. For example, there was a program in use at the middle school called Skills Tutor that had very limited use, and we did not see the results from it that we should have. Some buildings maybe only had 60 students using it. The district had been paying $30,000 for that program on a yearly basis. I did not renew that, so that's $30,000 that I'm able to move over. I'm happy to provide more detailed
intervention at
information.
BJ Ward that I'm involved in is called tutoring after school for free.
As are many teachers.
But anyway, is there an answer? Who's paying for all the phones, the Blackberries and iPads? Where did that funding come from? Because that could save a couple of jobs.
The iPads were not.
This is a big picture budget. Gary, you want to?
Sure. The question was asked. The iPads were purchased with professional development money. There was no increase in the allocation in our budget. It was staff accessing funding that was already allocated.
And who pays the cell phone bills? Out of professional development?
The district pays for cell phone bills.
Okay. That's one place to start.
No.
Hey, Gary, I have a question for you. Yeah. Who owns those iPads?
The individuals. The individuals own the iPads, not the district.
So we paid for them, but they own them.
The district allocates professional development money to each administrator.
So it's not a district asset?
It is not. And all the tax implications from that acquisition is borne by the employee.
My name is Nicole Camp, and actually I have a couple jobs. I am a substitute teacher in the school district, which I love, by the way, teachers. My second job is a mom. I have a child in Miss Abel's class, Gifted Challenge at RC Hill, which I also love. Thank you so much for the challenge program. It's fabulous. A couple of things. I want you all to know that I see perspectives from both sides, from the teacher side as well as the parental side. I have people coming to me all the time saying, I'm taking my child out of the school district. Probably about half my neighbors, I would say, have either moved or are deciding to move right now to take their child to another school district or homeschool or possibly go to a private school to get better education. I feel that the education here is fabulous for my children. I do, okay? I think that there is a huge problem, though, with the amount of parental input and guidance in our system, and I think somehow we need to have a job. Somebody needs to have a job to pull parents' involvement into the school district, because I just found out about this meeting 5 days ago. That's not right. I'm a parent and I'm a substitute teacher. I should have known about this meeting like 2 months ago, and it should have been in Bolingbrook High School. I mean, this is huge to be losing this many jobs. I don't want my child in a school that I feel like I'm losing some amazing teachers in. I went to a homeschool meeting today, for my child, because I'm scared about what's going to happen in this district today. Okay? I know the potential is there. I've seen the teachers. I know what you guys do. I've seen your lesson plans. They're unbelievable. You guys work so hard. Sometimes I get confused, and you know those subs that come in and they're like, I don't know where to start. I'm sometimes one of them because they're so detailed, which I love. But the fact of the matter is we need to somehow get these parents involved with the teachers and the administrative side, because we don't know. We don't know unless we're involved. And that's the only reason why I knew about this meeting today, was because I worked at the school and I found out. But we need to be involved. We need to know those numbers up there, because I guarantee if you told parents those numbers, they would be on their kids. They would be on their kids, but they don't know. They don't know. They have no idea. So how can we get the parents more involved? That is gonna give most of that will solve our answers. I'm telling you, if you get parents involved, you will have a much better district. Am I right? Am I right? Okay. If you look at any of the teachers that are in challenge, we are in there daily. We are working. We're asking if we can help. We are involved. I know all parents cannot do that because of jobs. I get that. But at least give them a chance and tell them what's going on so that they can go to meetings. They can put out a voice. They can question their student, because a lot of them think that their student is doing everything right, and maybe they're not. Maybe they're being rude in the classroom, because I've had a lot of rude kids in my classrooms when I'm teaching your classes. I've had a lot of very rude kids, and I thought, if your parents only knew what you were saying right now, you know? We need to have somebody in charge up here that can pull the parents together. I'll help you. I'll volunteer. I really will. I really will.
We would definitely welcome that volunteer effort, because if we can put that in a bottle, and make $1 million off of it. I would say this, that all of the staff in this district do a yeoman's job of trying to engage parents. Every teacher is making phone calls. Every teacher is sending home notes. We have the traditional ways in which we try to contact parents. We use all of our electronic medium. We use our parent link. We use everything at our disposal to try to gain parental involvement. We've had a middle school principal who knocked on the doors of every incoming 6th grader this year to try to introduce himself as a new principal and his staff. I personally have gone out to the community in my 12 years as an administrator hundreds of times, giving that particular information to parents about the state of our district and where our kids are as opposed to where they should be and where they can be. We are doing everything that I know to try to engage parents, and I believe that all of the staff are doing everything that they can in an attempt to engage parents, but yet it's still a factor that's beyond our capacity to directly control, to the extent that we can.
It has to be fun. I'm telling you.
But to the
if you
extent
make
that
it
we
fun,
can.
it'll happen.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, I tell you, we try to feed them. We try to provide games. We try to provide incentives. We do all. So again, please call my secretary. I would be more than willing to sit down and talk with you. And if we can partner and come up with ways in which to engage parents better, we're all for that. None of us want to, because that is right now the linchpin between success and not. Is parent
Absolutely.
engagement.
I think parents do not know what's going on in the classroom. I don't. I mean,
can I make a real quick comment? And you guys, some of you have heard me say this before. One of the most disheartening things you have to do as a board member is expel a student. We have hearings to expel students the parents don't even show up at. Now, I'm not saying that's a norm in this district, but it does happen. So we do, and you do what we're talking about. And we're not talking about those kids.
Right.
We're talking about the kids whose parents don't show up. And you can't. what
okay,
can
in
you
that
do?
fact, we need mentor programs, huge.
We have mentor programs, and we're expanding them.
Yeah, we need Big Brother, Big Sister programs.
We have all of that.
Okay.
We have all of that.
programs.
Okay, we need programs where I know Miss Abel does a fabulous job, and we pair up with like a second grade teacher and a fourth grade teacher. They pair up and they do things together. So it needs to come from the students within the body itself of that school, because there's no way you're going to get all the parents every day to collaborate, right?
Right.
I mean,
but
I get
I'll tell you this too. I think at the elementary level, we have significant parent involvement. I think that parents come, but as the students get older, you start to see the parent involvement wane, and so we need to find that place in a kid's education where we start to lose the parents and try to capture them at that point. Because as an elementary parent myself, if I go to Pioneer, when they have parental outreach, the place is loaded with parents. They just had a math science fair loaded with parents. Every elementary school I've ever gone to that has a parent outreach loaded with parents. But as the kids progress through the system, somehow the parents become less and less interested. And so if we can capture that
Right.
and
I
find
agree.
a way in which to keep them interested, that would be helpful. But I don't think it's a result of a lack of effort from senior leadership all the way down to
Right, I'm
anyone in the
not
building.
placing fingers to anybody. I'm just saying, if you want to make this a better, stronger system, we have to collaborate better. And we also, it's all about communication. It's all about communication. If I talk to my child and teach him something, and tell him what he needs to do better, I hope that he learns from that. It's communicating with our children. It's teachers communicating with their children and their parents.
If I may make one final point as well.
Yeah.
We are living in a very heterogeneous community. It is not an accident that the kids who suffer the most in our community are those ones from low-income families. And we're about 47% low-income. So it's difficult to engage a parent who's a single parent working 16 hours a day to feed their children, and then we want to point a finger at that parent as if they're not doing what they need to. And so some of those parents, many of our parents, just don't have the time or the wherewithal or the money to engage us at the levels that we would like. So absent that, my question still becomes, can we provide a quality education for that child who, by no fault of their own, doesn't have the supports that you can provide for your child or I can provide for my child? And I say that we do, and everything that we do in this district is geared toward try to make sure that comes to fruition. And nothing that we're doing is meant to be adversarial, but it's meant to support children, particularly those who need our support the most, because I'm not going to point the finger at a single mom who's working 16 hours a day, or whose kid at the high school level is working 8 hours a day to try to support their family and call that a bad parent because they can't come and engage us at the level that I'm capable of or you're capable of.
I totally agree with you, but cutting teachers right now is absolutely the wrong decision. Absolutely. And I only say that not because I work with them sometimes, but because you need that. They are the parent in that case. They are. That's the parent right there. And they need that. They need that 8 hours that they're with that teacher because that's their role model right there. And if we cut that and we make the class size bigger, 36, 38, how many kids can you have in one class? You are going to lose parents that have those high test scores that you're looking for. They're leaving. They're leaving. And I'm telling you that. I know, because I see them every day. So I'm just saying there has got to be a better way than to lose all these precious teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Please.
My name is Lori McIntyre. I'm a PE and health teacher at Brooks Middle School, and I just wanted to get clarification. We're hearing a lot about reallocating funds from one program and putting them in another, but the number of positions you're talking about possibly reducing in driver's ed and in careers still don't add up to the numbers that you're projecting that you're going to not rehire, the teachers that you're going to not rehire. And so PE is my bread and butter, so I'd like to know if PE is one of the programs that you're thinking of cutting positions from.
Every year we do annual staffing allocations. We look at what each building has, the number of students, how many students per class, and we try to keep those lower in the core content areas as much as possible. So is there going to be some reductions in PE? Probably a little bit here and a little bit there. So that is going to have an effect. If the board does vote to go with the driver's ed, depending on what level they choose to cut, a lot of our driver's ed teachers have more seniority. They have a lot of seniority, and a lot of them have then the PE certification. So yes, it is very possible that they could end up bumping out a lower senior PE teacher. So at this point, it's really hard to say until the decision is made. If you look at, let's say that there's 19 driver's ed teachers. If the most severe cut was to cut 15 or 16 of those for driver's ed, if that's what was approved, that's 15 or 16. If you look at middle school careers, and if you cut those by 1 or 2 in each building, you've got right there 25, 26 positions. Okay, I had stated my most severe was 30 to 40. That was just to give a little wiggle room. There's also a few classrooms in there that just by normal attrition, your class sizes are smaller, that there will be cuts there too. It may be in different grade levels. And that's just the norm, and that happens every year. You just don't see it because one of the reasons is we usually have a large number of retirees, anywhere between 20 and 40. As I said earlier, we only have 7 this year of certified retirees. So right there, that's a number that normally we can absorb in just the normal ebb and flow of allocations for staffing. But this year, that's not happening because we do have such a small number.
Okay,
Did that
I just
answer?
want to, I just want to understand the bottom line. You're saying that not only will the drivers, if the driver's ed proposal is approved, not only will the driver's ed teachers most likely bump out some of the middle school PE teachers, but also in addition to that, there will be less PE positions available because you're going to cut some of those positions. I just want to
There
understand.
could be some reductions in those areas if they were areas that we looked at when we did our staffing allocations, which is normal.
In middle school PE, we did look at the class size, the average class size as a whole, and I'm speaking for all 5 buildings, all sections for middle school, for example. The average class size was 23. Now, if you compared, I know your class, your individual class, there's exceptions. So when I say average, that means, there's some classes that are really large and there's some that are really small, so it brings it down to an average. Same thing, when we compare the average in science, social studies, math, language arts, careers, those average class sizes are much higher. So in looking at that, there was some reduction in sections needed based on projected enrollment for next year. So by that very fact alone, that would be a small amount of staffing. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think the idea is, and let's not get lost in the number of 400 and the reality of the cuts is going to be much, much, much less. I think most of you all understand that, but there's some people who don't necessarily understand that in the public. We're not laying off 400 people. This time next year, we might have 40 people less. I understand that, but the reality is that's not the case. And everybody who's been through a RIF understands that. So there's the requirement in the law, and then there's the actual reality of what we're doing with the budget. Those of you who get that letter, a great number of you are going to get recalled within, what would be the time frame that we start recalling?
We would definitely hope to recall as many as possible before school's out.
Even before the end of the school year. We're not trying to lose teachers. Sir, please state your name and where you're from.
Yeah, my name is Tim Costello. I'm an aide at Romeoville High School. I also was a school board member in Naperville District 203 for 12 years, so I'm familiar with the job and the job responsibilities that you have before you. I was standing in the hallway for most of the meeting, but from what I could gather, there seems to be a lot of questions still within the community regarding these type of actions, these types of reductions, and of course there's concern and questions that are still out there by teachers and staff. And I would urge the board to table these motions tonight and allow you've heard from the association that has asked to have input into this matter. I think that's a valid concern. I think you deserve to listen to the association. to hear from all aspects as what they might be able to offer. It might be a few, it might be many, but at least you would take the time, listen to the association, and see if there are other ways in which to solve this situation. I think that until tonight, I didn't know there was almost 600 people that were going to get dismissal notices. In any way that you put it, if you take action on this tonight, there are 600 people that will be dismissed. So you can't say tonight sitting there that that's not the reality of it. If you take action on these resolutions tonight, there are 600 people that will be dismissed. That's the reality of it. So I would urge you, if the administration and the board feels that you have the necessary information, okay, to go before the public, give it some time, let it percolate down, allow the association to give their input into it, come back at a later date, and then think about these resolutions again. So I urge you to table these motions tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Nicole Peters. I am a special educator at Brooks. And I actually have a question about the Odyssey program. You had said that there's a small group instruction piece of this. But that small group instruction is being taught by a teacher. Is there going to be a curriculum? Where's that data coming from? Who's going to create the curriculum?
Obviously, it would be the teachers and then the directors who are directly involved with those content areas. That one-on-one piece or that small group instruction piece would be for curricular support because obviously the students are going to be engaged in curriculum throughout the school day. It would be a time to reinforce what was being taught. So say, for example, a sixth grader in mathematics, it would be a time to work one-on-one with that student or in small group of some of the key concepts, some of that critical content that they are working on there. So that would be developed by those people who are directly involved.
Okay, that brings about two other questions. I teach resource, and that's exactly what I do right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically putting these kids into a self-contained special ed program then. That's basically what you're saying. And then if each instructor is creating their own curriculum, there's no more core curriculum going around the district. Everyone's going to be teaching each student something different.
Each instructor would not be creating their own curriculum. That kind of is what happened with our current enhancement program. If you walk into any enhancement classroom in this district on any given day, it's all different. Some teachers do reading math, some teachers do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some are working on homework. It's more of a tutoring setting. There's a variety of options going on. Same thing with resource. There was never a curriculum put in place when that time was built into the school day. So those are all challenges that we are working against, and we're working against them as quickly as possible. But minimally, those students would have a time to get help with their homework or to make sure that they're on track with where they need to be in the classroom. As to exactly what that looks like, that hasn't been developed yet. But those people, the team who actually would be implementing this intervention would be the ones who would have the input in that process.
But if you don't know till July who that team is, how is that adequate time to create a curriculum?
We will know who some of those individuals are to begin with, and then we'll have to work with how the callbacks go. We don't have any other option.
Which
and it's no worse than our current option right now. Currently, in enhancement and resource, I don't know what goes on in those classrooms. Even with Read 180, that's implemented at all 5 buildings, it's implemented 5 different ways at 5 different buildings. It needs to be uniform. We are fixing it. We are.
We're
but,
at a public hearing. We're not going to have outcries from the audience. If you want to address, please come up, or you can contact Rachel tomorrow. We have to keep on focus here.
Please understand that the things that are in place in this district didn't happen overnight. They didn't happen just this school year. Things have been put in place or have progressed or have developed or kind of grown little animal monsters of their own in different directions for various reasons, probably before many of us were even in the district. And so to begin to unravel that, see what is actually in place, that's what we've been doing this school year. It took it took some time just to even see what exactly was happening in the enhancement periods, in the resource periods with the Read 180. So those are high on the priority list, most definitely. And those things do need to be uniform and consistent in their implementation. But that does take some time. So we're working on it.
So then, when you put in place this group to create the curriculum for the Odyssey program, can you also put in place groups from all the resource teachers across the district and all the Read 180 teachers across the district, and then they can come up with curriculums for those programs as well?
Right, and Read 180 is defined on how it should be implemented and how it should be administered. However, the teachers just recently had the opportunity, the Read 180 teachers, to come together and talk about that and realize that they are in different places. They lack support. Some of them lack the training. And those are all things that we need to provide for those teachers so they can be successful. Some teachers were put in an enhancement section and told nothing other than, you're an enhancement, help the kids. I can't tell you why that happened. The only thing I can tell you is that it is a high priority to fix, because that is critical time, and those teachers bring a wealth of skill to be able to help our students. So we need to connect the dots and make that happen. All I can tell you is we're not getting the bang for our buck right now with that time, because the teachers weren't given the proper training or support to put those programs in place. I'm now sitting in a position where I can help push that along and make that a high priority, and I can assure you that it is a priority. What I can tell you, though, is that all of this, with everything else that we're undertaking, can't happen overnight. But it is very high on the priority list, and so we welcome your input and we welcome your support in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Teresa Rodriguez. I'm a first grade teacher at BJ Ward. This is my 5th year. I don't have any questions. All I want to do is share my story. For the last 5 years, every time that our district has needed someone to be on a committee, someone to come in the summers to test our incoming students that are coming in at kindergarten or bilingual students, anytime anything is needed to teach ESL for our parents at the high school, I've done it almost every single year. And now that I need the support, I'm pregnant this year, and now I'm worried about not having the health care insurance for next year. And so now that I've given out my support, I would like to have support back. And now I'm feeling... I feel that I've given so much to the district with a whole heart, and I loved it, and now I just really want you to consider, please, when you're making your decisions, consider my story, and everybody has their own issues, to just remember that at 6 months, next school year, I don't think a new district is going to want to hire me. If I'm let go here, I don't know what I'm going to do now. So that's really my biggest concern for myself and for my colleagues and their own issues as well.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Joy, and I'm a parent. I'm also a spouse of a teacher who's been ripped for the last 4 years, and every year she comes in and has to do a whole new plan, whole new lesson plan, 3rd grade, then it goes to 6th grade, then it was 8th grade. And if from the changes the last couple of years, you're talking 30 people ripped, 40 people ripped, now it's up to 600, possibly getting new jobs. How is that going to benefit the kids? You're not letting them all go. But going from teaching 8th grade to teaching 5th grade to teaching 2nd grade, and they've all these lessons, like this lady just said, she's taught 1st grade for 5 years. Now if she's got to teach 5th grade, how is that going to benefit the students? The fifth year teachers, that's a bargaining chip. The 5th year teachers are using that as a bargaining chip. And contract negotiations should never affect the kids. It should never affect the kids. So I would say at least the 5th year teachers should stay where they're at. And that doesn't even benefit my wife. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to just respond to that. We are not using the 5th year teachers as a bargaining chip. My department has sat down. We have looked at the different scenarios based on staffing, based on if the program modifications were made. We have done this multiple times to ensure that we are not riffing more than what we actually need to. We actually sit down, we list all of the positions out. We take all of the people with the most seniority, look at their certification. We place them in either the spot that they came from or the position area, say whether it's PE, language arts, math, back into the spots as closely as we can to where they've came from. And then we go through that whole process, and then from that is where we figured out where we needed to get to the RIF and why we needed to go back 5 years. So it's not a bargaining chip that we've used, but we've done it systematically the same way we've done it multiple years. I'd also just like to share a little bit of information with you. In 08-09, we RIFed 136 first-year certified teachers. All but 7 were recalled. At that time, we expected that there were going to be more that were not recalled, but again, due to different changes that were made in allocations, due to resignations just by normal attrition that came in, more of them were recalled. In 09-10, we had 157 first and second year certified teachers were RIFed, all but 5 of them were recalled. Last year, we did not have to RIF any certified teachers. We had enough retirees that the cuts or the reductions that needed to be made just by the normal staffing, we were able to cover that. And that's just certified staff. That's not even going into aides. If you'd like, I can give you the aide numbers of what we released and how many were recalled, how many were not. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Hi, please state your name, where you're from.
I'm Ellen Crayson, and I am a parent of 2 Pioneer students currently, and 1 will be there in a couple of years. My question for you guys, and actually my concern as a parent, how are you expecting to implement these programs if you don't have a consistent staff there to support them? I see the staff as a team that works together to build up these programs for education for our children. And what I'm seeing with these RIFs is that these teams are being broken apart, splintered, sent to other schools, sent to other grade levels. My daughter was in a first grade class this year. She was taken 6 weeks into the school year, taken out of her class to a new class with a new teacher from a different school, from a different grade level. And that was devastating to her as a first grade student, having to go through that. It took a while to resettle down from that. I feel like this is kind of what's happening with the whole district as a whole, is you're taking these teachers, you're telling them they're going to go different places, and I don't see how that builds a cohesive team. I wish you guys could explain to me how you're building teams with this, because I think education is all about nurturing our students, nurturing our communities. You're saying that you don't have the parental involvement at the older levels, but maybe it's because you're hurting them so much at the lower levels by the things that you show them. We didn't get a parent call about tonight's meeting. We didn't get that robocall that we get for every single other subject that comes up for our school. We weren't informed. We didn't know. So I think when you're looking for answers about why aren't parents involved at that older level, nurture them more at the lower levels when they are there. Show them respect instead of showing them, you know, this disconnect and this, you need transparency in what you're doing. We need to be informed in order to be involved. So just please think about that when you're making these decisions, because it's a team with the parents, with the teachers, with the board, with the community as a whole. And if I have to go to Mayor Clark, if we have to go to the state, if we need to do those things to get you guys more money, if there's some avenue to do that, let us know about it, because we're just not informed about these things. So that's what I have to say.
Seeing no one else standing next to Mr. Randa in line, motion would be in order to adjourn the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I need a roll call? Roll call on closing the public hearing.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Moving through the agenda, consent agenda items. Dr. Mitchum.
1 second. Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve consent agenda items 6-1 through 6-6. Board meeting minutes, executive session meeting minutes, trips, Jane Addams Middle School, Bolingbrook High School, and Romeoville High School, gifts, Independence, Jonas Salk, Tibbet, and Lukanzik, gifts presented from the Knights of Columbus, and student activity contracts for Bolingbrook High School, Humphrey Middle School, and Tibbet Elementary School.
So move.
Second. Motion and seconded. Ms. Campbell and Mr. Curran, I believe. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Liaison reports. I don't think anybody has any.
I'll tell one that I have. Wilco had our board meeting last week, and they're going through the same problems that we're going through here. It's rehiring of teachers, negotiating with the teachers. The enrollment has dropped a little bit over last year. Last year we set a record as far as attendance is concerned, and that's down this year. So we're going through the same thing there as we're going through here.
Thank you. Just to make a real quick comment, if there is a magic basket of money in Springfield or anywhere else, Washington, wherever, I am happy to drive to find it and take my own basket to fill it up. So, moving down the agenda, action reports. Dr. Mitchum, student due process.
Mr. President, I ask that the board approve these items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
No.
Member Curran?
No.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Action reports. Ms. Kinder? None?
We have none at this time.
I just threw it out there. Mr. Krasafi?
A slew of action reports for your consideration and action this evening, beginning with 11.1 is the bids for the Brooks Middle School corridor lockers. We began that process back in '09, replacing 685 existing lockers with 400 new, which were original to the building and certainly had seen better days from the days of it being the high school. So continuing with that replacement process, we are asking to accept the bid from low bidder Lion Workplace Products for replacing 832 existing lockers with 542 new lockers, which would be the balance of 6th grade lockers and 7th grade class as well, leaving the 8th grade lockers to be replaced as the final phase for next summer. The award for that bid would go again to Lion Workplace Products in the amount of $76,145.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion about the locker bids? If not, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action report 11.2 is a recommendation to accept the low bid for Romeoville High School boiler plant replacement. The boilers in Romeoville High School are original to the building, circa 1963. We are recommending the existing plant of 5 boilers be replaced with 4 high-efficiency boilers to heat the entire building as well as provide domestic hot water throughout the building. We are also recommending that alternates 1 and 2 be accepted as well as was bid. The low bid would be from F.E. Moran Company in the amount of $722,000 and $722,300. Those funds would be covered by both the buildings and operations budget as well as the life safety budget. I'll get to more about that in my next action report. And so we are recommending the low bid be accepted as presented.
Motion would be in order to accept the boiler bid.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? If not, hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Going to skip to action report 11.4 to make a little more sense of the order of the action items. It's a recommendation to approve the certificate of need request for authorization to use fire prevention and life safety funds to partially pay for the new boiler plant that was just approved. We have life safety funds set aside in the amount of $371,850, and so we are asking that those funds be accessed at this time in order to help offset the cost of the boiler plant at Romeoville High. And so I do recommend approval as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Back to 11.3, action report is a request to approve the school maintenance project grant. Governor Quinn announced that the state was making available $50 million statewide which would be enough to just cover about every school district throughout the state with a $50,000 grant. It's a matching program where it would be a 50% match. And so we are applying the roofing project at Avito Martinez Middle School to be covered by this, partially covered by this grant. The roofing section's about 337,000 square feet. Projected cost about $370,000 for this summer. And so, again, we're pursuing this grant because it certainly makes sense to do so.
Motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion about trying to fix the leaky roof at AVM?
Gary,
Yes.
was the roof redone when they did the inside, or no?
The tunnels were done to cover the ductwork, but there were large sections of the roof that were not done.
Okay.
And so we knew that would be put off for some time, and it's time to go back and address that.
Okay, thanks.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 11.5 is a recommendation to accept the property casualty student accident fiduciary liability insurance proposal as was sought out back in January. We've taken our time to review those proposals and are happy to report that the increase is a mere 1.6% over the prior year's premium, but the difference is about $22,000 from low bid to high bid, and so we are asking approval for the Mesero Financial proposal to provide property casualty student accident fiduciary liability insurance for the period July 1, 2012 to June 30, 2013 in the amount of $629,382.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Final action report this evening, 11.6, is a recommendation to approve a contract in the amount of $833,300 to White Construction. This would allow us to get started with the full-day kindergarten project sooner rather than later. The full contract will come to you on April 16th. We did not want to wait that long to get started with some of the site work, earthwork, excavation, and underground utility work. Obviously, the weather's been very cooperative for us, and so to wait those 3.5 weeks would be lost time for us. And so we felt like to take advantage of that, we were bringing you this partial contract. These bids have been opened, and so you'll see it there in the exhibit that's attached in the amount of, again, $833,300. And so I do recommend approval as presented.
So move. Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion?
So this is $13 million for the construction of the additional classrooms?
Correct.
Do we have any idea what the enrollment's going to be?
We're hoping it's all 1,300 kindergarten students who would be enrolled for next year.
Realistically?
There, currently, there's approximately 110 families who have elected not to go full-day kindergarten, but we do want to have communication with those families to make sure that they have the full information before they make that decision for their son or daughter. So the vast majority of families have elected thus far through kindergarten enrollment to go full-day, if it were available.
Families thus far is how many families?
As many kindergartners as we're projecting for next year. I can check that number for you.
They've all signed up to pay the
Well, as many
fee
families
and-
have come through kindergarten enrollment. They were
Well,
given
that's
a...
the question I'm asking.
yeah.
How many have come through so far?
I can get that number for you. I'm sorry, I don't have that, and I'm sure my counterpart, Venus Smith, would have that, but I don't have that. I can most certainly provide it for you, though.
And so this is without the washrooms?
We are considering adding the washrooms. The alternate came in, I think it was $288,000. I reviewed that this afternoon with Director Lopez. And so the recommendation, I believe, at this point will be coming forward to include all washrooms.
Yeah. And then I got one quick question. So we add these all-day kindergartens, and then you got a school like R.C. Hill that has, 800 and some odd kids? Is lunch going to go from 10:30 in the morning till 1:15 in the afternoon? And who's going to eat lunch that early or that late? How are you going to get those kids into the cafeteria? Because it's a pretty small cafeteria.
Each of
at
the
RC
principals
Hills.
has been asked to consider how they're going to provide lunch to those additional students. That's correct. And so I don't have the exact details of what that's going to look like at RC Hill, but
It'll be the same case at Pioneer, too.
it would be. It would be.
The part of this document, the bids may come in lower, but this is the projected. So
Right.
when we
Well,
hit
I'm
the
just-
street and we find out what the real numbers are,
Well,
hopefully
if
with the construction environment that it is, those who are bidding on this will whittle their pencils down pretty sharply too.
And
which
this
will help.
money's coming out of reserves?
Correct.
Yep.
I think it's important to note, too, that those that elect half-day kindergarten may not be serviced in their home schools as they currently are. We cannot continue to provide half-day kindergarten at all 12 sites along with full-day kindergarten.
And did we ever determine what the fee was?
That'll be coming forth in the information report later this evening. It's $200 for the year.
For the year. And that'll cover the cost of the...
Based on the analysis I provided to the board, yes.
Okay.
We have a motion, we have a second. Seeing none, no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yeah.
Secretary Bowl?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Ms. Hawks?
Thank you, President Quigley. Action Report 12.1, we're seeking your approval on Resolution Number 1304, authorizing honorable dismissal of first, second, third, fourth, and fifth-year teachers for reduction in force reasons.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have some questions. It's probably need to be answered by legal counsel. If yes vote is taken on this, does that person making a yes vote have a right to bring that motion back to this board again?
For reconsideration?
Yes.
Not if the yes votes prevail. Or yes, if the yes votes prevail, the yes person could change their vote.
Okay, wait. Restate that and go
Could move
slowly.
to, if you vote yes and the motion carries, you would be on the prevailing side, and you could later make a motion to reconsider.
Okay. Question, I guess, over to human resource side. What is the last date and why was this? One of the gentlemen came forth, I think he was a board member, previous board member of 203 district, and he said about tabling the motion. Speaking to that concern, where would that
Hey,
put-
Liz,
Yeah.
would you speak a little bit? I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No,
Okay.
I can't. I'm 3 down from you, and I can't hear you.
Whoa, my mic is really not working, y'all. Okay, I can't believe that. Y'all tell that to my husband and my kids. Please, the folks in my church even. They be trying to make me be quiet. Okay, you want to go back to the first question? Okay, my first question to legal counsel was, if a yes vote is made by a board member, will that board member be allowed to bring that motion back to this board for reconsideration? And I think you heard her said that if the yes votes prevail, then one of those board members who made a yes vote to that motion could have that motion brought back to this board for reconsideration. Okay.
Second question.
Okay, second question. To human resource side is, with this vote coming tonight, and this came to my mind on the question of the previous District 203 board member was asking us to table this motion tonight. And so I'm asking human resource, probably coupled with legal counsel, is that how would that affect not only just the staffing and everything else that we have to do, but how would that affect us legally and how it would affect all the people that are involved?
School code states that we must give written notice to staff that are being reduced in force 45 days from their last day worked. So that would be June 4th. If you count back 45 days is approximately April 20th. We could take it to the April 16th board meeting, but that gives us 3 or 4 days to make sure that we have given them written notice. With the mail or with teachers being out on leave, we felt that that was a very narrow window, and we did not want to take that chance. So that's why we brought it to the March 26th board meeting.
Okay, now, to my fellow board members, are you willing to table this so that we have heard the union asked us to look at different ways? And I'm asking also not on the table that you heard that the time factor is really pressing upon us. Are we willing to table this and call a special meeting to discuss this so that we don't be so close to the time when this have to be done? Those are the questions I'm asking my fellow board members.
If I may add, haven't we satisfied the 45-day notice? Obviously, 600 folks have received a notice, correct? So that's been satisfied.
They have to receive notice that the board has taken action on the resolution for reduction in force.
10-4.
Are there other fellow board members, if anybody else?
I'm
You
just looking
willing?
at my calendar.
Okay. I'm asking other fellow board members to respond.
Works for me.
We have all right, so we have a motion and a second to accept this. We would have to table that motion and then have a new motion in order to table this motion. I am speaking into the mic.
Okay.
Is that better? So we have a motion and a second to pass this resolution as it stands. In order to change that, we would have to rescind that motion
Either they would have to withdraw it, or somebody would have to move to table it.
or move to table. And then we could establish a date that we could get together in the near future.
Very
And then-
near.
And then establish a date to have a special hearing or put this on the agenda for the 16th, in which time we may not have enough time. So we'll be saying we're going to have a special meeting to address this sometime in the, I would suggest, the first week of April. I'm looking around. The first week of it.
Okay, let's address the motion because I have some other things. So, legal counsel, follow us through. Do we need to rescind this motion, or what do we need to do with this motion that's on the,
Well, as I stated, they can either withdraw the motion, or somebody can move to table it.
I'm motion to table it.
Second. Would that
We
be
have
a
a-
second or so moved?
We have a motion to table the,
I second it.
and Mr. Kern seconds it. So we have a motion and a second to table action item 12.1,
And that takes precedence over that.
and that takes precedence over the other motion. So with that being said, we need a roll call vote.
Member Venegas?
No.
Member Hanson?
No.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
No.
President Quigley?
No. So we had a motion to table the resolution. Now the original motion is back on the table. Is there any further discussion about the original motion? Hearing none, seeing none, we need a roll call vote.
Member Venegas?
No.
Member Hanson?
No.
Member Campbell?
No.
Member Curran?
No.
Secretary Bull?
No.
President Quigley?
No. So, that motion fails. 12.2.
Wait.
Wait, they all just voted. Do they realize they just voted down the risk?
Yes,
You didn't realize that.
yes. They want to know what we just did.
Oh, we voted down the resolution. Uh, 12.2, Sharon, please.
Action Report 12.2, Resolution 1305. We're seeking your approval for authorizing honorable dismissal of educational support personnel employees, years 1 through 5.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Hearing none, seeing none, that motion fails as well. Okay, moving back down the agenda, 12.3, Ms. Hawks.
Action Report 12.3, Consolidated Action Report for Certified and Classified Personnel. This evening, we are seeking your approval on 24 items for certified personnel, 23 items for classified personnel, and 1 item for certified administrative personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 12.4, Resolution Number 1306, authorizing non-reemployment of first-year probationary teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report Number 12.5, Resolution 1307, seeking your approval, authorizing dismissal of fourth-year probationary certified employees for reasons other than reduction in force.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Mr. Curran, Mr. Venegas. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 12.6, Resolution Number 1308, seeking your approval, authorizing non-reemployment of part-time teacher aides, temporary teacher aides, and long-term substitute teacher aides.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Campbell, second by Mr. Venegas. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
And my final action report for this evening, 12.7, Resolution Number 1309, authorizing non-reemployment of part-time teachers, teachers hired under a temporary contract, and long-term substitute teachers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Mr. Venegas, Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Mitchum, Superintendent's information reports.
Information report 13.1 is an anti-bullying update, an update from the district committee that will be briefly presented to you by Mrs. Michelle Bachnick.
Good evening. This is going to be a hard act to follow. My name is Michelle Bachnick, and I'm here representing the Valley View School District Anti-Bullying Committee, which is made up of many groups within our school district. And on behalf of that district, I would like to present information to you regarding, thank you, the team's recommendation to senior leadership and their approval to purchase Sprigio software, which is an anonymous bullying reporting tool. Bullying is a national problem. It impedes learning and negatively impacts the safety of our students and our community. The problem is pervasive, yet students do not report it to teachers or staff. The The Illinois School Bullying Prevention Task Force and experts agreed that it's important to provide an anonymous mechanism to report bullying.
We have a technical difficulty.
Share something with you in just a moment.
Is the projector not working?
It was on standby, so it's got to be shut down. It's going to take time to cool down before it resets.
Oh.
It'll be like about a minute or so.
Okay, thank you.
In the interest of time, I could just take you through this. It's really pretty short if you would prefer me
Please,
to do that.
yeah, please do.
All right, great.
Pops on, it pops on.
All right, super. Bullying is a significant problem throughout the United States and the world. Bullying and school violence are serious problems. National U.S. news began with reports of school shootings and the increase of school violence. Teen suicides incidents followed quickly after that. And we have school attendance information that tells us that students who don't feel safe don't come to school. Here are some statistics about bullying. On an average, nationally, 160,000 children a day miss school because they fear they will be bullied at school. Every 7 minutes, a child is bullied on a school playground, and over 85% of those instances occur without intervention. Over 20% of our kids admit to being bullies or participating in bullying-like activities. And surveys show that 77% of our students nationally are bullied mentally, verbally, or physically. There's been a lot of information and a lot of reporting going on through the, starting with the federal government. The U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services hosted their first national summit in 2010. Last year, the state of Illinois had a summit. 46 states have adopted bullying prevention laws and programs, and they all agree that it's best practice to provide an anonymous reporting tool. The U.S. Department of Education reports that many students are reluctant to seek help when they are bullied or threatened at school. Experts have argued for the importance of creating mechanisms to report bullying anonymously. We've done surveys within our own district, and those same statistics come out, that students are afraid to report bullying. Let's see if I can catch us up here. So one of the things that's become loud and clear is we need to have some way that students can feel safe to report bullying situations. And our committee has worked hard to figure out what we can do to provide that tool. The first thing we looked at was developing our own through our own tech department. Then we looked at two commercial products. One's called Sprigeo and one's called Tips. And we found that it would be more effective for us to buy some software than to create it ourselves. We've decided to go with Sprigeo. And please don't ask me what the name Sprigeo means, because I actually was going to call to find out, because it's kind of an unusual name. But it's a simple reporting tool that students can use. And there's an administrative dashboard which is excellent for tracking reports and documenting interventions. So basically what would happen is there would be something on the website, and that then students would be able to send an email to report a bullying incident. We also are going to recommend that there be phone numbers attached to each of our school district phone lines, so that would be another option for people to do reporting. We have checked references, and everyone that we've talked to says that Sprigeo is excellent. It's a wonderful tool for parents and students to report incidences of bullying and other conditions that may be injurious to students or staff. It's confidential, it's easy to use. The cost of this is $195 per school, or $3,705 per year. It's a website linked to the online reporting system. It provides instant email notification after a report is submitted. There's a secure login and password access to the online dashboard that goes to the school, so it would be very safe. Along with being able to give a tool for the students to report this, we will also be able to track information about bullying. And that is something that the state of Illinois and the U.S. Department of Health and Education recommends that we do. We expect that's actually going to be a law in the near future, and this will kind of put us ahead of the game. It's an option. It's best practices for students, parents, and staff. It does come with an online training session and technical support. Next steps, we're developing an implementation program. We're going to be testing it in a few schools, with hopefully the rollout will be in August of next year so it will be available. Again, I mentioned that we're going to have a hotline set up with separate extensions for making reports via phone for those parents or for families who don't have internet capabilities. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. Do you want me to show how it looks, or?
No. Briefly, they made a presentation to a bunch of the community leaders and educational administrators and what have you through the district, and we all realize that this is an issue not just in our district. It's been going on since time began, basically. It's just become more of a focus lately, and how to handle it, and the impact has seriously been studied in the last few years, and what to do about it. And the intervention programs that we're doing with some of the other outlying entities in our communities, working with not only churches but the intervention groups and everybody else that cares, and this is a byproduct of that, and I'm happy to see that you guys have gone a long way in a short period of time. So
great.
We'll get this implemented sooner than later. So.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. Next.
We've already discussed 13.2 middle school intervention plan and 13.3 driver education programming, so we're at 13.4 student fees for 2012-13.
That's me.
Yes.
Okay, information report 13.4 is the proposed student fee schedules for the next 2 years. In there is my memorandum explaining the changes that were incorporated into the fee schedule, along with a copy of the fee structure as it looks, along with a survey that we conducted with the 5 surrounding unit districts that we compare favorably to. And so you will notice, based on that survey, that our fees are still middle of the road, if not below, even with the proposed increases. The primary changes for 12-13 are obviously the addition of full-day kindergarten fee to coincide with that offering of the program. As we said, full-day students paid in full prior to the first day of school, the charge will be $200. If they elect a deferral payment because of all the paperwork and the monthly payment plan, that fee will be $225. For those students that are eligible for a waiver, because the full-day program is not a requirement but an option, we will take that fee down to $175 for the year. And if they decide again to go on a deferment plan, it will be $200. And so that's exactly twice what the half-day kindergarten fee is proposed at, which is $100 if they choose to continue in the half-day program as has been offered in the past. At the middle school level, we are combining the graduation fee, PE band lock fee, as well as the co-curricular non-athletic participation fee, rolling that all into the registration fee so as to not have so many fees out there, streamline the process, as well as hopefully entice students to take advantage of the tremendous opportunities we have at the middle school level in terms of the clubs that are offered, and encourage them to attend athletic events with no cost at the gate. And so that is incorporated, again, all into the registration fee. We did this very same thing at the high school, with the exception of the co-curricular non-athletic fee. We left that as a separate fee, primarily due to the fact that most of those clubs have some competition aspect to them where they do travel. And so there's typically transportation involved, and we felt that the fee being left out of the registration fee would help cover the cost of that fee, or of that fee being left separate. No action necessary today. We're just presenting this for your review. We did review this with the Finance Committee, and they seem to support the ideas and the fee changes that were proposed here. As you know, we did not have any fee increase last year, and the general idea here is that those that use our district and use the myriad of services pay for it. It's a user fee, if you will. Anticipated revenue generation, if the fees were implemented, by our calculation, about $270,000 net of the full-day kindergarten. And so if you divide that amongst the 18,000 students that we have throughout the district, it's about a $15 increase overall.
Any questions on this?
Yes, the last one, it says outplaced student registration fee required only.
Correct. That's something we started a few years ago because the XOD, as we refer to them, that's a code that we use to recognize students that are outside. They're still students of the district. And for several years, we didn't do residency checks on those students, and they weren't required to pay any fees. And I had a very difficult time in determining that those families shouldn't pay fees like everybody else. They're students in the district, and so we do require them to register, provide proof of residency, and pay the required registration fees.
Okay.
Any other questions? Moving down the agenda. School board meeting dates proposed.
Mr. President, for your information, we have proposed the meeting dates for fiscal year 2012-2013 as indicated in your packets.
Any questions on the board packet calendar dates? I'm sure those will come up as we review it. Somebody might have a few questions about certain dates or what have you, but seeing none on that, moving down the agenda. Legal services report.
No formal report.
Thank you. Association reports, AFT. Vicki Sutherland.
I just want to briefly say thank you to all the members who came out in support of tonight, and also the community members who came out to support the teachers and the parapros and our members. And also thank you very much to the board. We appreciate your vote, and also we look forward to working with you in trying to find other options to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Valley View Council, any report? No report. Office Council, Personnel Council.
I don't have a report, but I do want to say thank you to senior leadership.
Thank you. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board this evening? Any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Any announcements by the board? Mr. Bull.
I had the privilege yesterday of going to a banquet that honored one of my fellow board members, and that was Ken and Crystal Hansen in their 20 years as pastors of the Living Water. It's not very often that you go to a church that you have someone that stays that long at one particular place, and they have done a wonderful job, not only in the church but also in the community. I think Pastor Crystal, if you ask her to do something, she'll say yes, regardless of how much she's already got on her plate. And it was just a recognition by everyone. In fact, Deputy Mayor Leroy Brown read a proclamation and gave to him. Rick Gugis, Vice President Rick Gugis, did a terrible impersonation of you, Dr. Mitchell, but he tried. But he did a good job of reading your proclamation anyway. Also from the school board. So it was a recognition of a job well done, and they should be proud. Oh, and by the way, we hope she stays around another 20 years.
All right, I'd just like to say I didn't make the banquet, I made the church service. But I also like to say congratulations again to the men and women of God and to all those that work in the community to help assist them to get where they have arrived with God's help. And then, you can't hear me again? You're going to sit by me, okay? But what I also would like this board is that we just made we made some votes and we talked about it, and we talked about the time factor that we're in a crunch like April 20th. So I need to know, are we having a special board meeting?
We'll have to discuss that amongst ourselves as far as what a calendar date may or may not work for everyone. And as soon as we get that information, we'll put it out there if that's what is deemed need to be. But I would like to see the meeting first in the near future, like, this week.
Friday?
And then we'll go from there, if that's acceptable. And as soon as we can get some dates on the calendar, we'll get some dates on the calendar. We need a 48-hour posting notice, correct? So we need a 48 continuous hours of posting before we can hold a special meeting, so.
We will, we'll have conversation with the building principals to see if, in fact, they can expedite, if necessary, the signatures required after board action after the 16th. And if we're confident that they would do that, they can do that, there would no need for a special board meeting, which would then give us more time to communicate with the union about potential other avenues to explore.
Okay, I guess then my
Thank you.
last comment versus question is all the letters that went out, so then they're null and void, I would say?
No.
They're not?
No. They're two different. Sharon, you want to respond to that?
The only thing that has went out is a pre-consult form that is just stating that the administrators met with the staff members that were going to be reduction in forces, letting them know that it was coming to this board meeting. That's the only thing that's went out.
Okay. So all those that 400, so how many letters went out?
There weren't letters. They met with them and gave them a pre-consult form. The letters would have went out after the board meeting. We had them ready to go out tomorrow, but they will not go out.
But each one of those individuals were counseled by their
Yes.
administrator? Okay, thank you.
Any other announcements by the board? I want to thank everybody for the civility in this, and I know there's a lot of emotions involved in this. I was interviewed by a local press person later last week, and I still say I'll say it. It's not our intention to lay anybody off, or the minimal if we have to. We do have a fiduciary duty financially up here as well, but we also know the more important is the classroom and the kids. That's what's first and foremost. Educating our children, making our communities better and stronger, safer, and so on, is what we're all trying to do up here. Some days it's a thankless job, other days it's not a thankless job, and I'm not sure what tonight is going to fall in my little note of notes when I put it in my journal, but it was informative, and again, as you know, Vicki and Jason, we're always happy to discuss whatever there is to discuss and get to where we need to be. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have financially up here, and I know you guys realize that. And since I've been up here as the president, we've been trying to find places to cut money anywhere but the classroom. So, and do the right thing for the community and the school and the kids as a whole. So I want to thank you guys for that and the civility that has come through this. And I know we'll continue to work on that, and we'll continue to work on the contract and everything else and see what we can come up with that. So
I have one last comment. I pray that all you guys have a good night rest. Not rest, because people always sleep, but they don't rest. So I pray for all your time and effort for coming out here tonight, that God give you a good night's rest.
this isn't the longest board meeting we've had, but it's pretty close. Any announcements by the administration?
No.
Any announcements by the public? No. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Campbell, second by Mr. Venegas.
All in favor, say aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. We stand adjourned.